Being reborn came with a lot of baggage, especially at night. When the world went quiet, the loneliness crept in, a vast emptiness that swallowed him whole. After washing up, Leo had planned to crash, but he just tossed and turned, sleep refusing to come. An hour of mental agony later, he gave up and sat down at his computer. He logged on to AIM out of habit, the familiar chime of new messages greeting him. A cascade of icons bounced in his buddy list. He clicked through them one by one. Almost all were inquiries about his wholesale clothing stock. He copied and pasted a single line. Questions? Call me. And sent it to each of them. The class group chat was, as always, buzzing. The main topic was the pop-up stall business. The few classmates who had tried it that night had seen surprisingly good results. The one who sold the least still moved 2 pieces. The bestseller sold 7. With a profit of $10 to $30 per item, they were clearing far more than the kids slinging fries or working in factories for a fixed $700 or $800 a month. No wonder so many people are asking, Leo muttered. Then a thought struck him, and he groaned. Damn it, business was so good tonight. How could I forget to get my cut from Khloe? The more he thought about it, the more it stung. He opened a new IM window to Khloe, but then her words from the car echoed in his mind, and a shiver went down his spine. He held back. Khloe might act like a sweet, doting girl now, but deep down, she possessed an unshakable, innate pride. She was the kind of person you put on a pedestal, a goddess, not quite girlfriend material. Not unless you had the kind of power to keep her completely in check. For now, that was a tall order. The girl had won the birth lottery, plain and simple. Whatever, he grumbled to himself. Consider it a donation to a stray dog. If Khloe had any idea what he was thinking, she would have killed him. At that very moment, she was lying on her bed, counting a thick wad of cash. $1,680, she whispered, her fingers flicking through the bills. A new phone is $4,500. She sighed. Almost there. A few more days of selling, and I'll have enough to buy one for him. With a phone, we could talk anytime we want. The thought of just buying it for him with her own money had crossed her mind, but she dismissed it, knowing his personality. In high school, Leo's pride was a fortress. If she just handed him a phone, he'd see it as charity. So, she'd hatched a plan. They would earn the money together to buy it for him. But the jerk obviously doesn't want to go back, she pouted. How am I going to trick him into coming out again? Khloe was also wide awake, her mind consumed by one person. Leo? Back in his room, Leo was deep into a late-night session of EverQuest, grinding mobs in the ruins of Old Guck, hoping for a rare drop, when his computer chirped with a new message. He clicked open the window. It was Sophia Sue. Sophia_Sue. How's business, mister? CEO, Leo what? Not bad. Leo At this rate, I'll be the richest man in Riverbend in no time. Sophia sent a winking, smiley face. Sophia_Sue. Well, I wish you luck. Sophia_Sue. My family has some connections at the local TV stations and newspapers. If you ever need anything, just let me know. Sophia was different from Khloe. Khloe was used to being in charge. If she thought something was right, she just did it, no hesitation. Sophia, on the other hand, always asked for your opinion first. If you said no, she respected it and wouldn't push. With her, you couldn't afford to be polite. Leo I don't need it right now, but I'll let you know. Leo Thanks a million. Sophia_Sue. Call me anytime. Her icon turned gray as she signed off. Leo actually did need media contacts. Once his sportswear brand was established, he needed an all-out advertising blitz to build brand recognition fast. Besides, he was sick to death of the same cheesy local car dealership commercials that seemed to be on every channel. He was ready to change the programming. The next morning, a sharp knock on his bedroom door jolted Leo awake. Dad, you going to work? Why are you bothering me? Leo had been up late. It was barely 8, prime sleeping time. He glared at his father through heavy, panda-like eyes. Khloe's here, and you're still sleeping. What? Leo's eyes shot open. He peered into the living room, and there she was, perched on the sofa, looking impossibly fresh and smiling sweetly at him. For words popped into his head. Can't get rid of her. I'm not even bothering you anymore. So why are you showing up at my door? Go get ready, his dad, David commanded. He was dressed in a sharp suit and tie, a pair of gold-rimmed glasses perched on his nose, clearly ready to head to his law firm. Khloe's arrival had obviously derailed his plans. What do you want? Leo asked, his tone clipped with impatience after he'd spent a few minutes splashing water on his face. Waking someone from a deep sleep was a crime, and he was not in a forgiving mood. I'm here to take you to the factory, remember? Khloe's smile didn't falter, completely unfazed by his attitude. I'm your driver. David sat off to the side, pretending to read the morning paper, but sneaking glances at the two of them. He was confused. He knew his son had harbored a crush on this girl for all 3 years of high school. Mr. Schultz had even called him in for a parent-teacher conference about it, after which David had given Leo a stern lecture. But looking at them now, the dynamic was off. It wasn't what he'd been led to believe. Who exactly was chasing whom? You're serious? Leo asked, genuinely surprised. He had assumed she was just talking yesterday, but here she was for real. A princess playing chauffeur for him. Why wouldn't I be? Khloe blinked innocently. Boss, when are we leaving? Hearing her call him boss sent a pleasant flutter through him. The feeling was incredible. Leo glanced at his dad, who was radiating awkwardness, and decided not to waste any more of his time. Let's go, he said. I need to check yesterday's sales data, anyway. Khloe's car was parked downstairs. Leo slid into the passenger seat and buckled up without a second thought. What do you want for breakfast? Khloe asked as she started the car. In his past life, Leo had never been a breakfast person, usually sleeping until noon. If she hadn't mentioned it, he would have forgotten entirely. Have you eaten? We have a cook who makes breakfast. I ate before I came over. Seeing Leo's silence, Khloe glanced at him. What's wrong? Leo sighed. Nothing. Just head to the factory. I'm not hungry. Even in his past life, he'd never been rich enough to have a private cook. The thought just soured his mood. Khloe didn't say anything else. She drove to the edge of their neighborhood and pulled over. Without asking, she hopped out and walked to a small roadside cafe, returning a minute later with 2 breakfast burritos and a cup of coffee. Skipping breakfast is bad for you. You should eat something. When Leo just stared at her, motionless, she added, Go on, try it. If you don't like it, I'll bring you something from my house tomorrow. Leo slowly took the food. A strange, unnameable feeling churned in his gut. You're being way too nice to me, he said, a smirk playing on his lips. Are you trying to monopolize all my love for yourself? A faint blush colored Khloe's cheeks as she stomped on the gas. You talk too much. Can't you just shut up and eat? Mr. White, you're here. This time, Khloe drove straight into the garment factory's parking lot. As they got out, Mr. Stewart, the floor manager, rushed over with a small group to greet them, his smile noticeably wider than before. Mr. Stewart, are the numbers from yesterday in? This was what Leo cared about. Even though the place had been buzzing and the orders seemed large, his heart was still in his throat until he saw the hard data. He had 7 days to recoup over $1 million. The deadline was tight, the task monumental. Here's the detailed report. Take a look. Mr. Stewart handed Leo a printout. Mr. White, you're truly our factory's lucky star. As Leo read the report, he noticed Khloe peering over his shoulder, so he lowered the sheet for her to see. From the first order yesterday at 1 p.m. to the last one at 11 p.m., we had 17 bulk orders for a total of 5,822 pieces. Gross revenue, $17,460. The numbers were excellent, and that's just yesterday's data, Mr. Stewart explained excitedly. A lot of people are just finding out about our sales model. They called to confirm, but didn't have time to make it over. Today is going to be explosive. If this trend continues, we'll be swamped with buyers. Do you think we should set up a threshold? Maybe let distributors handle the smaller orders so we can focus on the major clients. The surge in orders was already exposing weaknesses. The factory had never used this model before and was short-staffed. The people taking orders were working double time, pulling all-nighters. It was sustainable for a short while, but they'd burn out eventually. Leo had considered this, but he shook his head at Mr. Stewart. Everyone will have to work hard for a little while longer. Once this batch of inventory is gone, we're discontinuing this model. What? But a wave of shocked murmurs rippled through the staff crowded around them. This model was a gold mine. If they kept it going, they'd be rolling in money. Why would he just stop? Leo didn't offer a detailed explanation. He just addressed the group. Once a model like this gets popular, copycats will pop up everywhere. Our costs are too high. We can't compete with them in a price war. We have to pivot. He paused. Then, as if making a momentous decision, he continued, I've already discussed the specific plan with my uncle, but it's not time to reveal the details yet. Just trust me, the factory is only going to get bigger and better. Leo let the suspense hang in the air for a moment before delivering the final blow. Once the transition is successful, all of you will be the founding members of this new venture. I'll be issuing profit-sharing stock, a portion of the company's profits distributed to you every year. As long as the company makes money, you'll make money. Really? That's amazing. Mr. White, you're a genius. The people with Mr. Stewart were the factory's mid-level and senior managers. They had come to meet Leo today, initially skeptical of this kid who looked like he was barely out of high school. But the mention of stock options, their eyes lit up. In 2004, the average national salary wasn't high. Their $3,000 to $4,000 a month already put them ahead of most. With company dividends on top of that, they'd be in a whole new income bracket. Let's all work hard, Leo encouraged them. The market is full of opportunities right now. There's plenty of money to be made. The power of a well-placed promise was lethal. In just a few sentences, he had ignited a fire under everyone. After Mr. Stewart dismissed the group to get back to work, Khloe tugged on Leo's arm. You're really pivoting? What about the deal with my cousin? Don't worry, that's a separate arrangement. As long as your cousin isn't a complete fool, he could just sit back and watch the money roll in. Khloe didn't know why, but she had a strange, unshakable faith in Leo. She didn't press him further. If Leo said so, then it must be true, and if her cousin still couldn't make money, well, then he really was a fool. Leo, what's the plan for today? She asked. Are you staying at the factory? Leo had only come to see the data. Now that he had, his work was done. This was the beauty of being the boss. Everything was running according to plan. All he had to do was steer the ship. The rest was up to the crew. He had already laid out a detailed 7-day plan and given it to his Uncle Carl. With them watching over things, there would be no problems. That made Leo the most idle person in the whole operation. Seeing him thinking, Khloe asked tentatively, want to go set up the stall? Maybe because he genuinely had nothing to do, or maybe out of gratitude for the breakfast. Leo didn't immediately refuse this time. He did, however, glance at the sky. The sun was beating down, already hot enough to burn his skin at just past 9 in the morning. Nah, it's too hot. But Khloe just shook her head. It's fine. My dad gave me an idea last night. He said we could set up inside the Reborn Galleria. In 2004, the Reborn Galleria was the only major shopping mall in the city. Big national chains hadn't moved into a third-tier city like this yet. Leo threw his hands up in a gesture of helplessness. He'd love to work in the air conditioning, but he didn't have that kind of pull. I can't afford the rent there. The words were barely out of his mouth when he realized his mistake. Khloe was grinning, her smile radiant. Don't worry, it's free. I know people there. Leo froze. He knew Ethan Jang's business empire was vast, but he had still underestimated it. The waterfront last night, the Galleria today, these were the city's landmark commercial centers. Even in 2004, before the real estate boom, this was prime, gold-plated property. Looking at the jubilant Khloe, Leo felt a new weight of pressure settle on him. The kingdom Ethan Jang had built for her was enormous. With that kind of family backing, Khloe could marry anyone and still hold her head high, a veritable queen. What are you looking at? Is there something on my face? Khloe asked, noticing his intense stare. She quickly pulled a compact mirror from her purse to check her reflection. No, he said slowly. I was just thinking you really hit the jackpot in the birth lottery. Khloe wrinkled her nose. Oomph. Even if my dad didn't have any money, I wouldn't love him any less. Leo couldn't argue with that. It was like him. He'd never once held his dad's relative poverty against him. Of course, if anyone else knew he thought that, they'd scoff. Was David White poor? Maybe compared to Ethan Jang, but he was still far better off than most people. A respected lawyer with his own firm had unlimited earning potential. It was just that his money was managed by the perpetually frugal Helen. So Leo had never developed the self-awareness of trust fund kid. For 3 straight days, Leo accompanied Khloe to their pop-up stall in the mall. Occupying a prime spot with the highest foot traffic, business was booming. They could price the same clothes significantly higher in the mall than on the street. And in just 3 days, their net profit was at least $7,000 or $8,000, if not 10. Leo didn't ask for the exact amount. Khloe wouldn't have told him anyway. The usually generous Khloe had become surprisingly stingy these past few days, showing no intention of splitting the cash with him. Leo lounged in a chair, soaking up the air conditioning while Khloe handled the customers. It was a peaceful, easy life until an unwelcome guest arrived. Leo, a voice cut through the calm. I'm out there breaking my back under the sun every single day, and you're in here, living it up? You're making Khloe do all the work? Could you try to be a decent human being for once? Leo cracked open his eyes. Whoa, who's this? He exclaimed with theatrical disbelief. Standing before him was a figure so dark he looked like he'd just crawled out of coal mine. After a moment of scrutiny, recognition dawned. Oh, it's our class president. Kevin, you just get back from trip to Africa? Screw you. Kevin Liu, usually so composed, couldn't stop himself from swearing. Khloe noticed Kevin's arrival and walked over after ringing up a sale. What happened to you? Kevin looked from the busy Khloe to the laid-back Leo, who was acting like a king on his throne, and his anger flared. He truly didn't understand what he was losing to. I need to buy more stock, Kevin said, his tone blunt. Give me a discount, and the quality better be good. He had come all the way to the mall to endure this unpleasantness for one reason, to get a better price. Are you dreaming? $30 a piece isn't cheap enough for you. Although the factory's cost was under $20 per item, the minimum wholesale price of $30 was non-negotiable. It didn't matter who asked. Leo. This time, Kevin's voice was softer. He pulled off his son's sleeves. When Khloe saw his arms, she gasped and covered her mouth. Even Leo was taken aback. Ignoring their reactions, Kevin slowly pulled the sleeves back on and spoke in a low, weary voice. This weather is hot enough to peel your skin off. Can you imagine a group of kids, even younger than us, out in the fields under that sun, harvesting wheat? He shook his head. I was an idiot. I thought the clothes sold in those rural towns were all poor quality and ugly, so I took a bus out to the most remote villages to sell. And it worked. The clothes were new, stylish, so much better than what they had. I sold over 70 pieces in 2 days. At first, I was so proud of myself. But then yesterday, a little girl, not even 10 years old, came to me with a few crumpled bills. She said it was all the money she had, and she wanted to buy a new shirt for her older sister. That's when it hit me. I finally realized that besides the kids, the only other people in town were the elderly. I asked around and found out that all the young people had left to find work in the cities. They only come back for a few days during the holidays. Leo didn't interrupt. He knew that what Kevin had described so far wasn't enough to break a confident young man like him. There was more to the story. He shot Khloe a look, and she understood, slipping away to buy a bottle of water. Kevin took a deep breath before continuing. Those kids who were left behind, they only ever get new clothes during the holidays. Me showing up to sell clothes. It felt like I was committing a crime. They don't have much money. Some of the grandparents, feeling sorry for the kids, bought them clothes. But other elders thought it was a waste of money and wouldn't let them. And kids at that age, they're mischievous. Some of them stole money from their parents to buy the clothes. When they got caught, no one came to me for a refund. They just beat the kids. When I found out, I wanted to give them money back. On my way, I saw them. The kids in the wheat fields. A lot of the boys weren't even wearing shirts, just letting the sun beat down on them, letting the wheat stalks scratch their skin. I asked them why. They said they were afraid of tearing their clothes while working. A patched-up shirt is ugly, so they'd rather go without. Kevin came from a good family. Both his parents were high-ranking public officials. He had heard about hardship, but he thought it meant wearing cheap clothes and only eating meat twice a week. It was only now that he understood it meant having no clothes to wear and not enough food to eat. You can read 10,000 books, Kevin said, shaking his head with a deep sigh, but you still have to walk 10,000 miles. His eyes were red. He wiped them and looked at Leo. I just pour my heart out. Don't you have anything to say? Give me a discount on the clothes. Think of it as a good deed. Leo had to admit Kevin's story was moving, but he still shook his head. You. Kevin pointed a finger at Leo's nose, ready to curse him out for being a heartless bastard, but Khloe intervened. Here, drink some water. Kevin snatched the bottle, twisted it open, and took a long swig before turning his glare back to Leo. As much as he couldn't stand the guy, he knew Leo wasn't the type to make money without a conscience. What are you thinking? You're thinking I'll give you a lower price so you can sell them cheaper to those kids, right? Kevin stated it, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Well, yeah, what else? You're an idiot. The insult stung, but Kevin gritted his teeth and held back his anger. You have a better idea? If not, I swear, even if Khloe tries to stop me, I'm going to punch you. He balled his fist to show he wasn't kidding. Leo remained unfazed. If you lower the price now, what do you think the people who already bought clothes from you will think? Especially the ones who stole money to buy them. Kevin was speechless. He hadn't thought of that. After a moment, he asked tentatively, refund them. Leo shook his head. That's one way, but it's not a good one. Don't think I'm being cynical, but if you do that, you'll just invite more trouble. Kevin was confused, his brows furrowed. What do you mean? There are bad people everywhere, man. You start giving refunds, and I guarantee someone will show up with some old rags trying to get money out of you. What do you do then? You give them a refund. You're letting them scam you. You refuse, and they'll make a scene, maybe even get violent. The image Leo painted made Kevin's brow furrow even deeper. No, really? Are there really people like that? Kevin had grown up sheltered, never exposed to the darker side of human nature. But Leo had seen it firsthand. He knew that for some people, the word shameless had no lower bound. You could try it if you don't believe me. The thought alone sent a shiver down Kevin's spine. He shook his head like a drum. No, that's okay. Just tell me your plan. Some people are just built that way. Even if their own life isn't perfect, they can't stand to see others suffer. Leo knew he wasn't in a position to be giving handouts. He could barely support himself. But after hearing Kevin's story, and seeing the pleading look in Khloe's eyes, his heart softened. Still, a businessman had to think like a businessman. Charity, sometimes, was a business in itself. It all depended on whether the person running it had a conscience. Leo figured he had one. A small one, but it was there. The issue of left-behind children is a major social problem, especially in rural areas. An individual's ability to help is limited. Even if we wanted to, we couldn't help them all. But Leo paused deliberately. Khloe leaned in, her voice urgent. But what? Leo, I'll be waiting for your good news. Leo saw Kevin off, promising repeatedly that he would get back to him with a solution. Just then, Khloe hung up her phone and walked over. My dad said he's free right now. We can go over. Okay. Leo had been wanting to meet Ethan Jang. His motive was pure, secure an investment. Of all the people he knew, Ethan was the wealthiest. And with Khloe acting as the bridge, it was an opportunity he couldn't pass up. Even if the deal fell through, it would be a valuable connection for the future. Getting to know a titan who had seen the potential in real estate as early as 2004 was a win in itself. Why do we have to go to his office? We could just go to my house, Khloe asked, confused on the way over. Leo wasn't about to tell her that you keep business and personal life separate. Her house wasn't the right place to talk business. He offered a casual deflection. My mom told me that a boy needs to protect himself when he's out and about, and to never go to a girl's house casually. Khloe wrinkled her nose. She'd never met anyone so shameless. The crazy part was, she didn't seem to mind. The rest of the drive was silent. Khloe pulled up in front of her father's company building. The entire skyscraper belonged to them, exuding an aura of immense wealth from every angle. Khloe, you're here. A woman in a sharp business dress approached them as they got out of the car. And you must be Leo. Hi, Faye, Khloe said with a smile. It was clear the woman, Faye, had been waiting for them. Follow me. The chairman cleared his schedule just to see you. Faye's voice was pleasant, and her professional etiquette was flawless. Leo followed her into a private elevator that went straight to the 28th floor, the building's penthouse level. The entire floor was Ethan Jang's personal office space. No one was allowed up without his permission. Faye led them to a grand office door and knocked softly. Chairman, Khloe, and the others are here. A voice from inside responded, come in. When they entered, Ethan Jang put down his work. Compared to David White's scholarly demeanor, Ethan possessed the unmistakable aura of a man in power. He was nearing 50, but looked like he was in his late 30s. A lifetime of fitness was evident in the way his muscles filled out his tailored shirt. After Faye had shown them to a sofa and received a subtle wave from Ethan, she excused herself. Ethan poured them both a glass of water and sat down between them. He ignored Khloe, his gaze fixed directly on Leo. I hear from Khloe that you're looking for an investment. Leo took a sip of water and nodded slightly. I know you're a busy man, Mr. Jiang, so I won't take up much of your time. 10 minutes is all I need. This is my business plan. Please take a look. Leo didn't expect any special treatment. It was important to maintain a professional distance. Ethan took the proposal and glanced at his watch. You're on the clock. Knowing time was precious, Leo cut to the chase. We've already established our own sportswear brand. The factory is currently transitioning to produce our athletic apparel exclusively starting with the next batch. The future market is huge. Leo spoke for several minutes, focusing primarily on market analysis. Ethan listened intently, but eventually cut him off. You have 4 minutes left. You've only talked about the market. What's your advantage? Leo smiled. This was the question he'd been waiting for. If Ethan hadn't asked, it would have meant he wasn't interested, and there'd be no point in continuing. The fact that he asked meant he was taking this seriously, not dismissing him because of his age. The Olympics are just a few months away. I've already signed endorsement deals with several promising athletes who currently have low public exposure, but huge potential. Ethan glanced at the proposal in his hand and nodded. Betting on the underdog. It's a viable strategy. Combined with the aggressive advertising campaign you've outlined here, it could work. He paused, his tone shifting. But if that's all you have, it's not enough. Leo waited for him to finish, then nodded. I agree. Until today, I was thinking the same thing. Then one of my classmates came to me. Mr. Jiang, I know you do a lot of charity work every year, even if it's not widely publicized. Ethan adjusted his glasses, a non-committal smile playing on his lips. I owe everything I have to society. It's only right to give something back. Is this related? Absolutely, Leo said, then gave a brief summary of Kevin's story. With the stage set, he moved to his main point. I was struggling to come up with a slogan for the ad campaign. I rejected dozens of ideas. But today, I realized the best advertisement is charity itself. Once we launch our stores, Our primary marketing focus won't be on quality or style. It will be this. For every item of clothing we sell, we donate one to a child in the mountains. Once that message gets out, celebrities and athletes looking to build their public image will be lining up to partner with us. Ethan gave Leo a long, meaningful look, but said nothing. The 10 minutes were up. Khloe, I'm out of tea. Could you go ask Faye to bring me a new box? Khloe had been silent the whole time, listening intently. She wanted to stay, but she couldn't refuse her father's request. Okay, she said, and got up to leave. The moment the door clicked shut, Ethan spoke again. Leo, what is your relationship with Khloe right now? Leo's first instinct was to say classmates, but he stopped himself when he met Ethan's gaze. What relationship would you like us to have? Most people in Ethan's presence were either sycophantic or obsequious. Leo's calm, unflinching attitude was unusual. I have never interfered in Khloe's life, Ethan said slowly, because from a young age, I've given her everything, every experience, every surprise. I cultivated her taste to be exceptionally high. I did it all so she wouldn't be easily moved by just any boy who came along. Leo understood a father's heart perfectly. A man would die of heartbreak if his precious daughter was easily whisked away. He knew what Ethan was getting at, but he didn't say it, waiting for the older man to lay his cards on the table. Seeing that Leo's expression remained unchanged as he calmly sipped his water, Ethan finally lost his patience. Even if you hadn't come to me today, I was planning to invite you for a meal. Before I met you, I thought you were just a wet-behind-the-ears kid. But now that I see you, I realize you have a shrewdness that doesn't match your age. Ethan emphasized the word, not maturity, shrewdness. Ethan's success was built on his vision, and he was an excellent judge of character. Leo smiled. Thank you for the compliment. Ethan smiled back. I can give you this investment. I can even double it. But I have one condition. Leo had a good idea of what was coming, but out of respect, he said, please go on. Keep your distance from Khloe. Until she graduates from college, it's best if you two have no further contact. Ethan hadn't made a life sentence, at least. In front of Khloe, he was always the doting father who granted her every wish. But he was still a father, and that role meant he could never accept his daughter getting into a serious relationship at such a young age. After witnessing Leo's calculating nature, he even started to suspect that Leo had approached Khloe with ulterior motives. Silently, Leo gathered his proposal from the table, his expression unreadable. To a man like Ethan Jang, he was insignificant. What could he say? He had wanted to keep business and personal life separate, but the man in front of him had just tangled them into an impossible knot. The negotiation was over. The two parties were not on equal footing. Damn it. Leo felt a surge of indignation. Mr. Jang, I'm sorry to have wasted your time. He stood up. And don't worry, my plan was always to travel alone after we finalize our college applications. As Leo was about to leave, Khloe returned with the tea. Leo, you're leaving already? Yeah. Mr. Jiang is a busy man. I shouldn't bother him any longer. Khloe noticed the subtle shift in how Leo addressed her father. She frowned, but just then, Ethan spoke up with a smile. Khloe, why don't you walk Leo out? Then, to Leo, you're welcome to come by and visit anytime. P.S. If you're enjoying the story, add it to your reading list, drop a like, hit that more chapters please button, and give it 5 stars. A 90-degree bow. My dad didn't agree? Khloe asked anxiously as soon as they were out of the office. Leo, however, felt a strange sense of relief. Getting the funding would have been great, a shortcut to success. But without it, he wasn't worried. He could see the market trends and economic landscape for the next 18 years. He knew the winners of the next few World Cups. It would be hard not to get rich. As for Ethan's demand to stay away from Khloe, he didn't much care. He never really planned on anything serious happening between them anyway. He agreed, Leo said calmly. I just couldn't meet his terms. What terms? Khloe pressed, but Leo clearly had no intention of elaborating. He flagged down a taxi and got in. This is far enough. Your dad works hard. You should spend more time with him. Before the car pulled away, Leo leaned out the window and waved. Go on back. I've got things to do. Oh, and you don't need to pick me up for a while. I'm going back to my hometown to see my grandparents. With that, he told the driver to go. Leo didn't know why, but a strange discomfort still gnawed at him. Khloe stood frozen on the sidewalk, her eyes fixed on the spot where the taxi had disappeared around the corner. A gut feeling told her that this time, she had really lost him, the kind of loss you couldn't get back. Tears welled up in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks uncontrollably. She wiped them away furiously and ran back toward her father's office. Upstairs, Ethan Jang watched the entire scene unfold through the floor-to-ceiling window, his expression unchanged. He turned, brewed himself a cup of tea, and waited for her to storm in. "What were your conditions?" she demanded as she burst through the door. "Nothing much. What's wrong? Why are you crying?" Khloe wanted to ask a million questions, but seeing the calm, unreadable look on her father's face, she knew he wouldn't tell her the truth. She swallowed her words and took a deep breath, composing herself. "Dad," she said, her gaze steady. "You're busy? I'm leaving." Better to find Leo and ask him herself, even if she had no idea where he was, than to waste time here. But just as she turned to go, her father's voice stopped her. "Where are you going? Sit down. Your mother will be here soon. You can go home with her." His tone was uncharacteristically stern. "How long has it been since you practiced the piano?" Khloe flinched. She hesitated, torn between leaving and staying. But Ethan gave her no choice. "You've had enough fun. It's time to get serious. Starting tomorrow, you have your lessons in the morning, and in the afternoon, you'll come to the company for a rotating internship." A wave of misery washed over Khloe. She wanted to argue, to defend herself, but one sharp glare from her father silenced her. She had always been the good girl, adept at charming and pleading, but she lacked the courage to defy her parents. The deal fell through. "We'll have to go with Plan B." Leo went straight from Ethan's office to the factory. He flopped into his Uncle Carl's chair, propped his feet on the desk, and scowled. His uncle wasn't surprised. "The moment you told me Khloe was Ethan Jang's daughter, I knew it was a long shot. The gap between you two is just too big. But don't lose heart. You're young. Your future is limitless." Leo shook his head. "I'm not discouraged. Just annoyed." "Good. Channel that frustration into motivation." Leo shook his head again, changing the subject. "Uncle Carl, what did the bank say?" A proud grin spread across his uncle's face. "Yeah, as soon as we pay off the current loan, they'll increase our credit line to $1 million. And since it's a small business support loan, it's interest-free for the first year." Seeing his uncle's excitement, Leo didn't have the heart to burst his bubble. $1 million, while worth more in 2004 than tens of millions today, was still a drop in the bucket for a new brand trying to break into the market. But it was better than nothing. One step at a time. He was young. He could afford to be patient. "We've got 2 days until the loan is due and payroll goes out. How are the collections coming along?" Leo hadn't been micromanaging the factory for the past few days. Man proposes, God disposes. Carl tossed a stack of reports onto the desk. "See for yourself." The original plan was to recoup $1 million in 7 days. At this rate, we'll hit that number today. After a slow start of a few tens of thousands on the first day, we've been pulling in over 200,000 every day since. "We really have to thank Khloe for this," Carl continued. "A lot of people came after seeing the info on LiveJournal. And I heard someone's been promoting us on some forums, too. Don't know who. The internet really is a powerful thing." Leo pursed his lips. What good did thanks do now? It was anyone's guess if he'd ever see her again. Realizing his misstep, Carl chuckled awkwardly and excused himself, saying he needed to inspect the production line. Leo turned on his uncle's computer and logged into his AIM account. He had a flood of messages he couldn't be bothered to answer. Khloe had sent several, asking what happened and why her dad wouldn't let her go find him. He didn't reply to those either. He understood Ethan's actions perfectly. If he were in Ethan's shoes, he might have been even harsher. Someone trying to steal his daughter was like someone trying to take his life. The class group chat was a sanctuary, a bubble of cheerful noise impervious to his dark mood. Besides talk of business ventures, the most heated topic was the class camping trip, scheduled for a week from now. It was a 2-day, 1-night trip. Kevin had arranged for a bus to pick everyone up at the school. He had also sorted out all the supplies, keeping it simple and affordable. The estimated cost was about $60 per person. Kevin had posted a message. "I've made a spreadsheet with the cost breakdown. Any questions, check it yourself. If you're going, get the money to me." Leo approved. Settling the money up front would prevent a lot of headaches later. As he was scrolling through the chat, a new IM popped up from Sophia. Sophia_Sue. "Shouldn't you be at the mall with Khloe right now? Why are you online?" The two of them had been chatting casually every day, short conversations that were just enough to keep the connection warm without letting it overheat. It was the most comfortable kind of interaction. Leo's fingers flew across the keyboard. Leo understood. Put in a few days of hard labor, didn't get a single penny. "I'm on strike." Sophia sent back a series of laughing emoticons. It took her a few minutes to reply again. Sophia_Sue. "Khloe just called me." "What happened? Did you and Mr. Jang have a fight?" There was no way Leo was going to admit that. Leo_what? "Not at all. Mr. Jang and I are on the same page. We had a great conversation." Sophia didn't press further. She just sent a single line. Sophia_Sue. "The road is long. but a journey is completed one step at a time. The task is hard, but it can be done with persistent effort. Sophia_Sue. You got this. Sophia_Sue. And if you ever feel lonely, you can always talk to me. She then added another message. Sophia_Sue. Don't worry, my family doesn't own a massive empire like Khloe's. We're not that complicated. Smiley face. A warmth spread through Leo's chest. Sophia. Racking his brain, he realized he hadn't had much contact with her during their 3 years of high school. He vaguely remembered that the first time he'd gotten into a fight off campus, it had been because of her. What was it about? He couldn't recall the details, only that it hadn't been a fight over a girl. For the workers at the garment factory, payday was the best day of the month, especially this month. The factory had expanded production last month, which meant constant overtime, and the overtime pay rate was higher than their regular wages. The checks are going to be substantial. I pulled 5 or 6 hours of OT every day last month. By my count, I should be clearing close to $3,000. Yeah, me too. My kid's on summer break. Soon as I get paid, I'm sending him and his mom to the amusement park in the state capital for a couple of days. Hey, Blackie, what about you? You gonna blow it all on that stripper, Holly, again? The man called Blackie grinned slyly and rubbed his hands together. Hey, Holly knows how to make a man feel appreciated. Totally worth it. A chorus of sleazy laughter followed his comment. The workers cared about one thing, getting paid for a month of hard work. The factory's financial problems were irrelevant to them, as long as the paychecks came through. If they didn't, there wasn't much they could do besides raise a little hell. Production line 1. Come get your pay, a manager shouted. No need to rush, one line at a time. In 2004, most companies still paid in cash. You had to sign for your envelope in person. The moment the announcement was made, the workers' hands kept moving, but their minds were already on their money. The factory's accountant had prepared everything, with each worker's pay sealed in an envelope. They just had to come up, sign, and take it. Count your money on the spot. We are not responsible for any discrepancies once you leave the counter. If it was more, it was yours. If it was less, don't cause a scene. The workers from line 1 excitedly grabbed their envelopes and immediately tore them open to count the cash. But as they counted, their expressions shifted from excitement to confusion. The chatter died down. Leo was standing nearby, watching. He saw their faces but said nothing. If there are no problems, you can go back to work. There's still people waiting. Leo had been at the factory constantly, so the workers knew him well. Some of the more cunning ones immediately scurried away, afraid they'd be called back if they lingered. With a few leading the way, the others followed, heads down. Only a few, who looked honest and timid, hesitated, looking like they wanted to say something. After a moment of internal struggle, most of them left too. Finally, one young man clenched his jaw and walked over to Leo. Mr. White, there's a mistake with the pay. Leo looked at him. The kid couldn't have been much older than him, his face still boyish. Speaking to Leo seemed to have drained all his courage. What's wrong? Leo asked, intrigued. Did we short you? No, he stammered, shaking his head. It's too much. With overtime, my pay should be $2,780, but there's $3,000 in here. Instead of answering, Leo asked. Everyone else left. Why didn't you? It's too much. I was afraid to take it. Leo sighed. So, honest people really did exist. If it had been him, he would have been long gone. That's this month's profit-sharing bonus, Leo explained patiently. From now on, as long as the company hits its profit targets, there will be bonuses. After the young man left, Leo made a point to ask for his name. A person like that might not be cut out for business, but you could trust him to get a job done right. Holy crap. Why is there so much extra in our paychecks? After the pay was distributed, the production floor erupted in surprise and delight. At first, they thought it was just them, a mistake by accounting. But after asking around, they realized everyone had gotten extra. You didn't hear? It's a profit-sharing bonus from Mr. White. Mr. White is so generous. I was planning to quit after this month, but now? You couldn't drag me away from this place. I know, right? $3,000. My brother-in-law, the teacher, doesn't even make this much. Let's see him look down on me now. I'm going to tell my wife I only made $2,500. The rest, hith. As the workers chattered excitedly, Leo walked into the workshop, led by his Uncle Carl. The crowd greeted him warmly, their faces beaming with genuine smiles. Everyone, please stop what you're doing for a moment, Carl announced over a megaphone. Leo has something to say to you all. The factory had 3 workshops, each with about 100 workers. The whirring of the machines ceased, and a sudden silence fell over the vast space. Leo took the megaphone, not a hint of stage fright in him. He He found a raised platform to stand on so everyone could see him. I trust most of you are happy with your paychecks today. Yes, very happy. Thank you, Mr. White. A chorus of voices answered him. This is just the beginning, Leo continued, his voice echoing through the workshop. It's only going to get better from here. From now on, your salary will consist of your regular hourly pay, your overtime, and a profit-sharing bonus. As long as the factory is profitable, you'll get a share every single month. Many people make grand promises, but few actually deliver. Leo didn't mind being one of the few. He finished with one last point. Of course, if you feel that this still isn't enough money, there are other ways to earn more. What way? Mr. White, tell us. Is it legal? Someone shouted from the back. Leo heard a few of the shouted questions and understood their concerns. He raised a hand for silence. Of course it's legal. If any of you have connections or hear about clothing stores that are going out of business and looking to sell, let us know. As long as it's within city limits. Any city, we're interested. For every valid and verified lead you provide, you'll get a $50 reward. Leo's words were like a bomb exploding in the crowd. They had expected something difficult, but this was just a matter of walking around town. There were plenty of clothing stores and plenty that were failing. $50 for one lead. 100 leads would be $5,000. Mr. White, are you serious? Absolutely. With Leo's confirmation, a new wave of excitement swept through the workers. It was free money, and only a fool wouldn't take it. Worried that some might not have heard or remembered, Leo had posters put up at the workshop exits, detailing the offer for everyone to see. Back in the office, Uncle Carl eagerly brewed Leo a cup of tea and pulled up a chair beside him. Leo, what's our next move? Leo had paid out nearly $100,000 in extra wages today, a figure that had made Carl's heart ache. After settling the loan, paying suppliers, and covering payroll, they had less than $200,000 left. The thought that the unsold clothes from the first wholesale batch would be returned for a refund in a few days sent a chill down his spine. Next, we find someone to take over our inventory. Leo's tone was matter of fact. Haven't you noticed our wholesale orders are already dropping? Other factories are starting to copy our model. Of course, Carl knew. That was exactly what he was worried about. Other factories were offering lower wholesale prices and higher buyback rates. It was a clear move to steal their market share. But finding someone to take over, as Leo put it, wasn't going to be easy. Leo, stop being so mysterious. Before Leo could reply, Mr. Stewart's voice came from outside the office. Leo, the conference room is ready. Everyone's waiting for you. Okay, I'll be right there. Leo stood up, straightened his shirt, and turned to his uncle. Come on, you'll understand after you listen in. Carl hadn't seen Mr. Stewart for 2 days. He knew Leo had given him an assignment and hadn't asked. Now Stewart was back, apparently with his mission accomplished. The conference room was filled with over 20 people, all of whom were strangers to Carl. Confused, he quietly took a seat next to Leo. Mr. White. The woman leading the group looked at Leo with disbelief. When Leo nodded, a smile spread across her face. You really are remarkably young. Before meeting you, I thought you'd be. Leo chuckled. A middle-aged man with a beer belly? She laughed. Please don't take offense. Your ideas are so bold. I figured you had to be young, just not this young. If you want to flatter me, Leo said, we can go to a nightclub sometime, and I can listen to you praise me over drinks. But today, let's talk business. She nodded. Right. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Laura Een, and this is my team. We're here today to discuss the specific details of your proposal. As she spoke, an assistant handed out 2 folders, one for Leo and one for Carl. This is the plan we've drafted based on your requirements. Please see if there are any adjustments you'd like to make. Reading the document, Carl finally understood Leo's strategy. He wanted to partner with clothing stores that were on the verge of bankruptcy. The factory would provide the inventory, the stores would handle sales, and they would split the profits. If a store failed to meet its sales quota, the factory would not only cover their operating costs, but also pay them a compensation fee of $2,000 to $3,000. It was a classic performance-based contract, a high-risk, high-reward deal. No wonder Laura had called his idea bold. However, this approach would drastically reduce the cost of expansion, not just in terms of money, but also time. It took at least a month to get a new clothing store from leasing to opening. Right now, time was the one thing they didn't have. Leo's method allowed them to skip that entire process. According to Laura's proposal, her team would handle market outreach and negotiations with store owners. They would be paid nothing for failed negotiations. For every successful deal, they would receive a fixed commission of $1,000, plus 3% of that store's gross revenue for 1 year. Of course, they wouldn't just be collecting a check. They would also be responsible for a portion of the store's marketing and promotion. Carl frowned when he read that part. He had dealt with marketing firms before, and this quote was significantly higher than the market rate. He had no idea where Leo had found these people. But to his surprise, Leo nodded without a moment's hesitation. This proposal is perfect. Let's proceed with this. Even Laura was taken aback. You don't want to think about it. Her quote was indeed well above market price. She had prepared a whole arsenal of arguments to persuade him, but hadn't needed a single one. Leo tossed the file onto the conference table and leaned back in his chair. Instead of answering her directly, he asked, "Your team's capabilities are not in question. I only have one concern. Why did you leave Mr. Duval's team?" In this era, when Leo thought of marketing, the first things that came to mind were the inescapable infomercials for products like the back-straightening brace and the memory-enhancing pen. Anyone who lived through that time would remember being constantly bombarded by them. Laura Een had been one of the core members of the marketing guru Mr. Duval's team. For some reason, she had suddenly left to form her own. Leo needed people, so he had sent Mr. Stewart to track her down. Laura smiled faintly. Let's just say we had different philosophies. Leo could see she didn't want to elaborate, so he tactfully dropped the subject. Trust the people you hire. Since he had chosen her, he had to give her his full confidence. To a successful partnership, I've already mobilized my resources. You should have a list of potential stores very soon. To a successful partnership, Leo repeated. They signed the agreements and shook hands, concluding the meeting. Leo firmly believed in one principle. Let the professionals handle professional matters. He could hit the pavement and do the market research himself, but he knew he wouldn't be as good as them. His advantage lay in his foresight and his grasp of future market trends. There was no need to waste his time on grunt work. After seeing Laura's team out, Leo remained on the sofa, his fingers drumming a rhythmic beat on the table. He was confident in Laura's team to handle the expansion. His immediate concern now was the advertising campaign. Leo's plan was to start with a pilot program in Riverbend, then radiate out to surrounding cities and counties, eventually conquering the national market. Other companies would create 3-year or 5-year plans, moving step by step. Leo didn't want to be that slow. To capture the state, or even the national market, in a short time, he had to be like a hermit crab, taking over existing shells. The risk was immense. If they failed to manage the partnerships well and didn't deliver enough profit for the shells, they'd be kicked out, losing everything. This was where the advertising became crucial. Leo was thankful he had already signed the athletes to endorsement deals and filmed the commercials. The cost was lower than he expected, less than $300,000 for 5 athletes. The most expensive, a rising track star named Lu Xiang, had only asked for $100,000. The ads were ready, but now wasn't the right time to release them. He had to wait until just before the Olympics. So, what was the pre-Olympic advertising strategy? Mr. Duval had played on parents' anxieties about their children's success. What could sportswear play on? Leo, you have a visitor. A knock on the door broke his concentration. The factory manager's office was now his private domain. Even Uncle Carl had to knock. Leo stubbed out his cigarette. Come in. Mr. Factory Director, it's only been a few days, and you're already looking more and more like a big shot. Sophia Sue's voice was soft, and she covered her mouth to hide a giggle as she spoke. Sophia, what are you doing here? Come in, sit down. Leo was genuinely surprised. Although they chatted on AIM constantly, they hadn't seen each other since their trip to the arcade. Sophia pouted playfully. I've been tasked with a special delivery. Huh. Leo stared, bewildered, at the phone box in Sophia's hand. What's this? It's a phone, Sophia said matter-of-factly, then added, Oh, Khloe asked me to bring it to you. She said it's your share of the profits from the stall. She tilted her head, feigning a thoughtful expression. Looks like selling stuff at the mall really pays well. Leo understood immediately. He didn't refuse. He genuinely needed a phone, and, as Khloe had essentially said, he'd earned it, so he could accept it with a clear conscience. While Sophia was still musing about their stall, Leo changed the subject. It's not bad. You should see our class president. The sun turned him into a walking charcoal briquette. Puffed. Sophia had seen the pictures of Kevin in the class group chat, and the image made her burst out laughing. On second thought, maybe I'll pass. While they talked, Leo unboxed the phone. It was a Nokia 7610, the first camera phone with a 1-megapixel sensor. It felt solid in his hand. He played with it for a moment and discovered the SIM card was already installed. Khloe's number was saved in the contacts. Sophia noticed. Oh, by the way, Khloe wanted me to tell you something. She said, see you in college. Leo acted as if he hadn't heard her. He used a new phone to call the office landline. When a number popped up on the caller ID, he jotted it down. It was a good number, only one digit off from Khloe's. "What's your number? I'll save it." Sophia's family was also well off. Her father was a university professor, and her mother was an executive at the state television station. She came from a classic intellectual family. Her parents had gotten her a cell phone back in their junior year, so they could easily reach her. She recited her number without hesitation, then asked, "I see you've been writing ad copy. Are you working on a campaign?" Leo had a bad habit of scribbling keywords on paper whenever he was thinking deeply about something. He knew it was a messy habit, but couldn't break it, which was why he usually kept people out of his office. He hadn't expected Sophia to drop by, so he hadn't cleaned up. He nodded, admitting it freely. "Yeah, for the clothing line? MHM. Just not sure where to start." Sophia hesitated for a moment before asking tentatively, Can you tell me about it?" "Sure." Leo handed her a folder. "This is the basic concept. Take a look. Tell me what you think is the best angle." It was a business secret, something most people would guard closely. But Leo didn't think for a second that Sophia was some kind of corporate spy. He trusted her. Besides, she was a Stanford-bound brainiac. He was genuinely interested in her opinion. "The main selling point is charity?" Leo nodded. "It is." After getting a confirmation, Sophia read through the entire plan. She closed the folder and gave Leo a long, deep look that he couldn't decipher. "Do you watch reality TV?" she asked. The 2004 version of Leo might have, but the reborn Leo rarely watched television anymore. He found it boring. He just shook his head. Sophia wasn't surprised. "There's a show called Hometown Heroes. Have you heard of it?" "I've heard of it." "Why? You don't expect me to advertise on a national network, do you?" "I'd love to, but I don't have the money." Leo threw his hands up in a gesture of helplessness. If he had cash, he wouldn't have these problems. What he needed was the biggest bang for the least buck. But Sophia shook her head. "There was a contestant on a recent episode, a guy from one of the small towns near here. His family is really poor, and he has 3 younger siblings to support." Leo started to see where she was going. "You want me to contact him?" Sophia nodded. After he came back from the show, he dedicated himself to helping underprivileged and left-behind children in his community. It's generated a lot of positive buzz. In fact, the state TV station is doing a special feature on him soon. If he were to mention your clothing brand during that interview. She didn't need to finish. Leo got the message, but he still had a question. "You think the station would allow that kind of product placement?" TV stations were notoriously stingy. If you weren't an official sponsor, they'd blur out the logo on your water bottle, terrified of giving away free advertising. Sophia gave him a sly smile. "It'll be fine as long as it's not too obvious. All you have to do is take a station exec out for a nice dinner. As for how you arrange that, I'm sure you can figure it out." Leo stared at her, stunned. She carried herself with a maturity that was far beyond her 18 years. A girl who had just graduated from high school shouldn't be this savvy about the way the world worked. "What?" Seeing him staring, Sophia flushed, a faint blush creeping up her cheeks. "Nothing. Just, thank you." Sophia pursed her lips, giving him a meaningful look. A spoken thank you doesn't have much sincerity, you know. This put Leo in a difficult position. He was just being polite. Did she expect something more? He let his gaze wander over her, a mischievous smirk on his face. The look was enough to make even the composed Sophia a little flustered. She covered his eyes with her hand. Khloe was right. You really are a pig. Leo felt wronged. He had been on his best behavior around Khloe. How had he earned the reputation of pig? She really said that? Sophia nodded, her voice crisp. She did. She also told me to stay away from you, so you wouldn't be a bad influence. So what do you think? He asked. Sophia pretended to ponder the question. Seeing his curious expression, she winked playfully. Me? What do I think? She grinned. That's for me to know and you to find out. Leo was speechless. In his limited high school memories, Sophia was the model student, quiet, obedient, and reserved. He never imagined she had this mischievous side. All right, change the subject, she said. What's for lunch? I came all this way to bring you something. The least you can do is buy me a meal. When Khloe asked Sophia to deliver the phone to Leo, she had a hidden agenda. She wanted Sophia to see just how close she and Leo had become. Sophia, far more mature than Khloe, saw right through it. But she didn't refuse and delivered the phone as requested. Delivering a gift warranted a meal in return, right? At least, that's what Sophia thought. Leo thought it was a reasonable request. The garment factory was on the outskirts of town, with no decent restaurants nearby. It was past lunchtime, and the cafeteria was closed. With no other option, Leo offered to cook. The factory had several furnished suites in addition to the 6-person dorm rooms, reserved for managers who didn't want to go home. Leo had claimed one for himself, fully equipped with furniture and appliances. They say guys' rooms are always a mess. What's going on with yours? Sophia asked, a little nervous as she followed Leo into the suite. It was the first time she'd ever been in a room alone with a boy. She was just trying to fill the silence. Leo, oblivious to her subtle anxieties, tied on an apron and started pulling vegetables from the fridge. His uncle had someone stock it for him that morning. You want the truth or the lie? He asked without turning around. Let's start with the lie. The lie is that I'm a neat freak who can't stand a messy house. Sophia giggled. And the truth? The truth is that a cleaning lady comes in to tidy up. Has nothing to do with me. If I were living alone, it would be a different story. He paused, then added, just keep that between us. It might hurt my chances of getting a girlfriend. Sophia's laugh was even brighter this time. At least you're self-aware. So, your plan is to find a girlfriend who will clean up after you. Leo nodded. That's the idea. Get to college, find a girlfriend, rent an apartment together. Sounds like a sweet deal, right? For some reason, Leo felt incredibly relaxed around Sophia. He said whatever came to mind, appropriate or not. Maybe it was because they'd been chatting on AIM for so long that he already considered her a close friend. Sophia's response was a sharp oomph. You really are a pig. You're not even married, and you're already planning on living together. Leo scratched his head. When you put it that way, I guess it does sound a little piggish. Oomph. All right, go watch some TV. I'll make lunch. Okay, show me what the great chef Leo can do. In his past life, Leo had lived alone for years. He hated eating out, so he taught himself to cook. He'd only ever cooked for himself, though. Not even for his own mother. Helen didn't trust him in the kitchen. She was convinced he'd burn the house down. For 2 people, Leo kept it simple. 3 dishes and a soup. When he brought the food to the table, Sophia, who had been watching TV, was stunned. You actually know how to cook? A guy their age who could cook was a rare species. Give me some chopsticks. I have to try this. Don't worry, even if I get food poisoning, I won't tell anyone. Leo handed her the bowl and chopsticks, rolling his eyes. You talk too much. Aha, she giggled sweetly. Time to dig in. Sophia was clearly more than satisfied with Leo's cooking. She finished everything, praising him throughout the meal. She joked that even if he couldn't find a job after college, he wouldn't starve to death. He could always open a food stall. The meal also showed Leo another side of Sophia. She was mature and thoughtful, but also had a playful, almost innocent streak. Leo, I'm done, Sophia announced, wiping her mouth. Time for you to wash the dishes. But Leo just untied his apron and tossed it to her. Not doing the dishes is my last stand. I suggest you reconsider your position. Sophia looked at him with a shocked expression, then down at the apron in her hands. You mean, you want me to wash them? You figured it out. Now, I get to it. Is this how you treat a guest? It wasn't before, but it is now. Sophia pouted, but despite her protests, Leo playfully pushed her into the kitchen. He didn't see the huge smile that spread across her face the moment he turned away. It was such a simple, ordinary thing, but she did it with extraordinary care. Finished. Sophia emerged from the kitchen about half an hour later. She threw the apron back at Leo and shot him a playful glare. If I had known that eating at your place came with washing dishes, I never would have come. Anyway, the delivery is made, the meal is eaten. I'm leaving now. Don't get up. She said the last part with extra force, because she noticed that as soon as she'd mentioned leaving, Leo showed no signs of getting up to see her out. At that moment, she remembered Khloe's complaints. He really is a jerk. Leo feigned ignorance, his eyes glued to the TV. After a moment, he turned his head. Huh, you're still here. Furious, Sophia stomped her foot and threw the slipper she was wearing at him. Hey, words, not weapons. I'm trying to use my words, but my hands aren't listening, she retorted, throwing the other slipper at him for good measure before dusting off her hands with satisfaction. Leo gathered the brand new pair of slippers and glanced at her. So, should I walk you out? Yes, you should. The walk from the suite to the factory gate wasn't long. Along the way, they passed several workers who greeted Leo with warm, respectful smiles. The deference they showed him struck Sophia as odd, but she didn't ask. In the room, she had felt a strange high, but now, out in the open, she realized how carried away she'd gotten. They walked in silence. At the gate, Leo made no move to walk her to the road. As Sophia headed toward the curb to hail a taxi, she turned back. Leo, what do you think? Should I go to Stanford or the University of Oregon? River Bend was a small city in Washington, right next to Oregon. The drive to Eugene was shorter than the drive to the state capital, Olympia. Many students from River Bend chose to go to schools in Oregon, where the options were more plentiful. Leo hadn't expected the question. From what he knew, Stanford had always been her dream. He wasn't a clueless, emotionally dense guy. He was just used to being alone and preferred to avoid complicated situations. Answering without any personal bias, without any favoritism, he said simply, "Stanford." He paused, then added, "If you go, you might regret it for a year or two. But if you don't go, you might regret it for the rest of your life." Sophia understood the meaning behind his words. After a long moment, she smiled and turned away, raising a hand in a small wave. Stanford, the dream that was impossibly out of reach for so many. But Sophia was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, some things were more important than that dream. If she had been hesitant before, today had solidified her decision. No matter what Leo said, she wouldn't change her mind now. Watching the taxi carrying Sophia drive away, Leo turned and walked back toward his office. Sophia had given him the name and number of Alex Bing, the hometown heroes contestant. The rest was up to him. Mr. White, after 3 days of outreach, 7 clothing stores have agreed to partner with us. We've also launched the ad campaign you planned, placing ads with all the city's newspapers and TV stations. The TV commercial will air for the first time tonight, and the print ads will be out tomorrow. Alex Bing has agreed to cooperate. His terms were simple. Besides the fee, his only request is that we build a library for the elementary school in his hometown. We have 3 days until the deadline for the wholesale returns. Our initial estimates suggest about 30% of the inventory will be returned. But don't worry, even though our direct sales have slowed, we can absolutely absorb that 30% with our new retail partners. At the Monday morning company meeting, Leo sat at the head of the table, listening to the department heads report their progress. He had set everything in motion. All they had to do was follow the plan. Starting today, he intended to use a media blitz to make his new brand, Rush Sportswear, a household name in every corner of Riverbend. Once he succeeded here, he would use the same model to rapidly conquer other city markets. "I know everyone has been working incredibly hard," he said, addressing the room. "But for the future of this company, we just have to push through this." Since Leo had implemented the profit-sharing bonus system, everyone, from the workers on the production line to the managers in the conference room, felt a stronger sense of ownership and belonging. Hard work wasn't just a slogan anymore. They had put in the effort, and now they were about to see the results. Those 7 stores must have their signage replaced by today. I want to see the Rush logo on those storefronts by tomorrow morning. The grand opening and ribbon-cutting ceremony is set for 3 days from now. There can be no mistakes. For the next 3 days, we need to promote the grand opening discounts relentlessly. I want to ensure that at least 50% of Riverbend's population knows about our launch event. Run another test on the franchise inquiry hotline. Make sure it can handle at least 10 simultaneous calls. All the preliminary work was for the grand opening in 3 days. The success of that single day would, to a large extent, determine the brand's ultimate potential. If it went well, the momentum would carry them forward. If it failed, potential partners who were still on the fence would remain there. Most people have a herd mentality. If they see a crowd buying something, they'll join in. If they see an empty store, they'll hesitate, even if they like the product. To that end, Leo had also arranged for a few plants to be in the crowd to help generate excitement and drive sales. It was a small trick, but everything ultimately depended on the power of the promotion. After the meeting, Uncle Carl and Mr. Stewart stayed behind. They had a few more things to confirm with Leo. "Here's the invitation list for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. See if there's anyone you want to add." Leo scanned the list. The highest-ranking official was the deputy director of the city's Bureau of Commerce, along with a few other department heads Carl was friendly with. There were also some local entrepreneurs on the list, though it was uncertain if they would actually show up. "Uncle Carl, you can handle this. I don't know these people. If possible, try to get some bigger names to make an appearance." Carl knew the importance of this, but he didn't have the connections. Leo saw his uncle's predicament and offered a comforting word. "Having these people is already a great start." Carl nodded, then looked at Leo. "Leo, what's next on your agenda?" After the past few weeks, Carl had come to see Leo as the true leader of the company. When he first agreed to let Leo take over the factory, he was just hoping to scrape together enough cash to survive the immediate crisis. But Leo had not only solved the crisis, he had also set them on a path of aggressive expansion, pulling the entire factory staff along with him. Now, everyone had high hopes for the Rush brand. The factory's morale and unity were at an all-time high. "I'm done," Leo said, stretching. "For the next 3 days, I'm going home to sleep. I haven't had a decent night's rest this whole time. Uncle Carl, Mr. Stewart, I'm counting on you to handle things from here. Unless it's a 5-alarm fire, don't contact me. I'll be waiting to see the results in 3 days. Whether we end up driving a Mercedes or riding a bicycle all depends on this." With that, Leo stood up and left without a backward glance. The closer it got to the critical moment, the calmer he became. Better to empty his mind and not think about it than to wait in anxious suspense. He had arranged everything that could be arranged. The rest was in the hands of fate. He went home and slept straight through until early evening. He woke to the sound of the television. His parents, Helen and David, had been home for a while but hadn't woken him. It was almost time for the evening news and the weather forecast, which was preceded by a block of commercials. Before Leo even left his room, he heard it. Live active. Live free. The world is yours. Rush Sportswear. Full of infinite possibilities. Rush. Never give up. The Rush logo subtly incorporated the letters N and G. Leo hadn't linked the brand directly to charity in the initial ads. First, he wanted people to know the name. The feel-good story would come later. With the all-out, no-escape media blitz across Riverbend, he was confident that in 3 days, every person in the city would know the brand. What is with this Rush commercial? Helen complained from the living room. It's everywhere today, on the street, on TV. It's driving me crazy. The jingle was an earworm. Leo hadn't told his mother about his new venture. His uncle had been too busy to call her, so she was completely in the dark. David knew some of the details, having reviewed the contracts, but he had kept quiet. There was no point in giving his mother more to worry about. Better to let her be than to endure her constant fretting. Rush? That's a great name. And the slogan is catchy. Whoever thought of that is a genius, Leo said, plopping down next to his mom and grabbing a slice of watermelon. Helen shot him a sidelong glance. Her eyes held a flicker of concern, but her words were sharp. Whoever it was, it has nothing to do with you. You're never home anymore. Have you forgotten where you live? I guess your wings are strong enough now. You're ready to fly away. Leo chuckled and moved behind her, gently kneading her shoulders. I can't fly, Mom. I still need your protection. Helen rolled her eyes. Please. Ignoring her, Leo continued, Mom, look, that Rush brand is having its grand opening in a couple of days. Their discounts look amazing. How about you buy your son a couple of new outfits? Ahem. David, unable to watch this any longer, cleared his throat, a warning for Leo to stop before he dug himself into a deeper hole. Helen would be furious when she found out. But Leo pretended not to understand. What's wrong, Dad? You want some new clothes too? Let's all go check it out. Helen turned to look at her husband. Since when are you interested in sportswear? This is news to me. David sighed and went back to his newspaper. You two carry on. Don't mind me. My throat is just a little scratchy. At that, Helen slapped Leo's hands off her shoulders, stood up, and went to pour her husband a glass of water, adding some herbs to it. I told you to smoke less. You smell it? Even the boy smells like smoke because of you. No more smoking in the house. David looked helplessly at Leo, shooting him a look that pleaded for rescue. Leo winked, a silent acknowledgement of their father-son pact. We're in this together. Mom, you can't make Dad quit smoking. That would be a death sentence. Let's talk this over. Maybe we can forget about the whole quitting thing. He turned to his dad. Don't worry, Dad. My body is like cured meat. The more smoke, the better the flavor. David was about to give Leo a subtle thumbs up when he saw Helen marching back from the kitchen, broom in hand. What did you just say? She demanded. Leo's allegiance shifted instantly. Dad, smoking is bad for your health. You really should stop. David put down his teacup and stared at his son, betrayed. Then his eyes narrowed. You're not coming home tomorrow night, are you? Have you packed for your camping trip? Are there going to be girls on this trip? Leo's mind went blank. Oh no, it's over. He had mentioned the camping trip to his mom once, and she had shut it down immediately. Later, while sharing a smoke with his dad, he'd said he was going anyway and asked his dad to run interference with Helen. He never thought he'd be stabbed in the back like this. Just as he feared, Helen immediately forgot about the smoking. Her voice was dangerously low. Leo, explain. Mom, if you're going to hit me, just do it. Leo squared his shoulders, staring straight at Helen. I won't even flinch, because right now, anything I say, you're just going to call an excuse. He was channeling his inner 18-year-old. The 38-year-old version of him would never have the guts to talk back to his mother like this. But this Leo, he had it in spades. Helen, of course, was just talking tough. She would never actually hit him. She couldn't bear the thought. She let out a long, frustrated sigh. I don't want you to go because it's the middle of summer. The mountains are full of snakes and bugs. It's not safe. If you insist on going, I can't stop you, she conceded. Just make sure you pack medical supplies. Don't worry. The campground will have everything set up, Leo said, but Helen's eyes were still locked on him, unconvinced. He sighed. Fine, fine. I'll bring your first aid kit with me tomorrow. Okay. Only then did Helen give a reluctant nod. And remember, no matter what you're doing, You need to be smart about protection. Her words were a clear double entendre. As a doctor, she'd seen it all. Leo was momentarily speechless. What is my mom even thinking? I know. By the way, is Khloe going? Helen asked, the thought just occurring to her. Leo shook his head. I don't know. She's grounded right now, so probably not. Oh, that's good. Leo shot her a look. I mean, what a shame. She corrected herself quickly. There was no point in continuing the conversation. Leo turned and headed for his room. Call me for dinner, he said over his shoulder. If he weren't genuinely hungry, he wouldn't even bother coming out. Back in his room, Leo glanced at his phone. A new text message was waiting for him. This is so annoying. I want to go tomorrow, but my dad won't let me. I can't wait for college. The sender, of course, was Khloe. Ever since he'd given her the phone, she'd gotten into the habit of texting him. He'd occasionally reply to a text, but her AIM messages were a black hole. He typed back, it's okay. When we take pictures tomorrow, I'll leave a space in the middle. We can Photoshop you in later. He'd barely hit send when a reply buzzed in. That's not the same. When we get to college, you have to take me again. This time, Leo didn't reply. According to her father, Ethan Jang would be keeping Khloe on a tight leash until she graduated from college, even if she was in a different city. Leo never made promises he couldn't keep. The next morning, Leo was jolted awake by his phone ringing. He mumbled a groggy hello into the receiver. You're not up yet? A voice roared from the other end. Are you coming or not? You want all of us to wait for you. It was Kevin Liu. To ensure everything went smoothly, he'd been calling everyone on the camping trip list since the crack of dawn. His tone with everyone else had been pleasant. With Leo, it was a different story. Leo wasn't bothered. He just hung up. He checked the time. It was just past 8. He had no idea what had gotten into Kevin. After getting up and washing his face, Leo was about to head out when he saw a note from Helen on the coffee table. Underneath, it was $100. She might talk a big game about disapproving of his choices, but when he set his mind to something, she always supported him. He grabbed the cash and walked out the door. The June sun was already blazing. Leo had come prepared. Baseball cap, cooling sleeves, and sunglasses were all in his bag. And, of course, Helen's first aid kit. Leo, how's business? Leo had become something of a celebrity in their class AIM group chat. The conversation always seemed to circle back to him, from gossip to his new startup. The girl asking was the same short-haired one who'd come to pick up inventory before. He remembered asking for her name, but he'd forgotten it again. Not bad, he said. Thanks to everyone's support. He walked over and slung an arm around Kevin's shoulders. Class president. Long time no see. How'd you get even darker? After that trip to the small town to sell clothes, Kevin had embarked on a journey of tanning from which he might never return. He, however, seemed to be taking it in stride. None of your damn business. The phrase sounded familiar. Leo saw Sophia stifle a laugh nearby and remembered. It was the same line he'd used on Kevin when they went to visit Mr. Schultz. Kevin looked smug, cutting Leo off before he could say anything else. He gathered everyone, did a quick head count, and herded them onto the charter bus. That's when someone asked, Hey, Kevin, didn't Chloe Jiang say she was coming? I don't see her. A few of the guys had only come because they'd heard Khloe would be there, and their disappointment was palpable. Kevin pointed a thumb at Leo. You'll have to ask him. HM. Leo spread his hands, his expression suddenly somber. She hasn't been feeling well lately. The doctor recommended she stay home and rest. Thank you all for your concern. I'll be sure to pass along your well wishes. Kevin couldn't listen to another second of it. Leo, you have absolutely no shame, do you? No. While some were disappointed by Chloe's absence, it didn't dampen the overall mood. Perhaps as a form of petty revenge, Kevin made Leo the last person to board the bus. There would be a seat, sure, but it wouldn't be a good one. Just as Kevin was feeling proud of his clever little maneuver, his plan backfired spectacularly. Sophia Sue, who had boarded first, waved to Leo as he stepped onto the bus. Over here, she'd saved a seat, turning down several others who had tried to sit next to her. Everyone had been curious who she was waiting for, but no one had guessed it would be Leo. Those with good memories were already recalling a recent LiveJournal post of hers. The post itself wasn't important, but Leo's comment and her reply suddenly seemed very significant. Why do I feel like everyone is staring at me? Leo muttered as he sat down next to her. Sophia blinked, a playful glint in her eyes. You guess. Sophia, if you keep looking at me like that, I can't guarantee I won't do something totally insane. If it had been Khloe, she would have muttered, pervert, her face blushing crimson as she turned away, pretending to be angry for a few minutes before getting over it. But this was Sophia. After Leo's warning, she just kept looking at him, her expression a mix of mischief and daring. Her eyes seemed to say, go on. I dare you. Leo had the nerve, but for now not quite the guts. He turned to look out the window, seeking a distraction. It was over an hour's drive up the mountain to the campground. The students on the bus were chattering away, their conversations mostly centered on college and the brand that was suddenly all the buzz around town, Rush. There's a new store opening up downstairs from my apartment. I saw them stocking the shelves, and the styles look pretty good. I'm planning to buy a couple of tracksuits when they open. For college. Is it expensive? The original price is a little steep, but they're having a grand opening sale. Cool. Let's check it out together. I heard if you buy something that day, you get entered into a raffle. The grand prize is a cell phone. Yeah, right? Do we look like we have that kind of luck? Who knows? Even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. Listening to their chatter, Leo gradually drifted off to sleep. He didn't know how long he'd been out, but when he felt a weight on his shoulder, he opened his eyes to find Sophia leaning against him, fast asleep. When the bus reached the mountaintop parking lot, a wave of noise woke Sophia. She blinked sleepily, rubbing her neck. Sleep well. Leo's voice snapped her out of her drowsiness. She saw a few strands of her own hair on his shoulder and instantly understood. A faint blush that was already on her cheeks deepened. Not bad. Just a little. Hard. Leo threw his hands up. My fault. Clearly wanting to change the subject, Sophia nudged him. Come on, let's go. After they got off the bus, Kevin started organizing everyone. First thing, we set up the tents. The owner said no one else is up here for the next couple of days, so we can use any of the tents we want. You could go two to a tent or one person, whatever you want. He paused for effect. As a rule, boys and girls are not allowed to share a tent. A wave of laughter rippled through the group. He was being overly cautious. Most of the students in their class were good, straight-laced kids. Even if they had crushes, the most they'd dare was a blush and a bit of hand-holding. Anything more was probably out of the question. Kevin was just giving them a heads up. He couldn't control what they actually did. He continued, the firewood for cooking and the bonfire tonight is already prepared. Once the tents are up, guys get the wood, and girls will be in charge of prepping the food and washing vegetables. No one had any objections to Kevin's plan. They split up and got to work. Leo was no stranger to setting up tents. In his past life, he'd loved camping and fishing, often spending 4 or 5 days alone by a river. While most of the others were still fumbling with the poles, he had his tent up and ready. Though it was pitched under the shade of the trees, it was still stuffy and hot. Leo, with remarkable foresight, had brought a small, battery-operated ceiling fan, which he hung inside, making the tent significantly cooler. Leo, could you help me with mine? The short-haired girl, Gina Zhao, had initially tried to set up her own tent, but after realizing she was clueless, she swallowed her pride and came to Leo for help. It was the only logical choice. He'd finished first. Leo had asked Sophia on the bus and finally remembered her name again. She was the first person he'd roped into his business venture, and he'd heard she was doing pretty well with her market stall. She had a knack for it. I can teach you, but I'm not doing it for you, he said. Getting things for free is addictive. If it had been anyone else, Leo would have just said no flat out. Who are you? It was hot. He'd be pouring sweat, and there was nowhere to shower. Not worth it. But he had a decent impression of Gina, so he was willing to offer guidance. What are you so smug about? Classmates are supposed to help each other. Leo wasn't a $100 bill. Not everyone was going to like him. A guy who had always looked at him with disdain overheard and seized the opportunity to lecture him. While Kevin's squabbles with Leo were always about Khloe, and their relationship was otherwise fine, this guy was different. He just genuinely disliked Leo. Leo looked at the guy's young, pimply face and couldn't for the life of him remember his name. He wasn't about to waste brain cells trying. Suit yourself. But Gina firmly rejected the other guy's offer. Thanks for the offer, but I'd rather do it myself. If someone else helps, I'll never learn. If I do it myself, even if I mess up, at least I'll know where I went wrong. Leo smiled. She's teachable. The guy who'd been rejected stood there, his face shifting between anger and embarrassment before storming off. While Leo was coaching Gina through the tent setup, Sophia finished pitching her own. Wiping sweat from her brow, she walked over to Leo's tent. When she saw the small fan hanging inside, her eyes widened. You actually brought a ceiling fan? Her voice was laced with envy. Why didn't I think of that? I could give you half my tent, Leo offered, his tone teasing but somehow not obnoxious. Sophia rolled her eyes, fanning herself with her hand. I'd rather die of heat stroke. You won't reconsider. Well, I'll think about it. Even Gina couldn't listen to their banter anymore. Why don't you two find a private place to talk? I'm still here, you know. Leo shrugged, a look of mock apology on his face. Sorry, I forgot. A giggle escaped Sophia. Deciding it was pointless to stay, she waved and walked away. I'm going to see what ingredients we have. After she left, Gina had mostly finished her work. She wiped the sweat from her face and looked at Leo with a wary expression. Watching you just now, a word came to mind. Oh, Casanova. Leo didn't argue. Instead, he looked at Gina and said, seeing you, a word came to my mind too. Gina looked at him quizzically, but before she could ask, Leo spoke. Ingrate. Gina was so angry her two small canine teeth audibly ground together. But seeing Leo's completely unbothered expression, she was helpless. After a moment, her anger subsided, and her gossipy side took over. Don't you like Khloe? So what's the deal with you and Sophia? Gossip was a girl's natural instinct, and she was no exception. A while back, I saw you and Khloe together, and I confidently told everyone you two were a couple. Leo didn't answer directly. What's your glasses prescription? 20/150. Why? You might be a little blind. With that, Leo turned and walked away without looking back. Next to the campground was a large observation deck that overlooked most of Riverbend. Leo leaned against the railing, a wave of nostalgia washing over him as he gazed at the old city. Right now, the tallest building he could see was the office tower owned by Ethan Jang's company. In this era, it stood out like a crane among chickens. This old city held so many memories, but the tides of time and development were relentless. Memories were destined to remain just that. The familiar streets and alleys of his childhood would soon be demolished, replaced by towering skyscrapers. Even that office building would eventually blend into the crowd. The real estate industry, a product of the country's economic boom. The money was real, but so were the losses. In the future, real estate developers without government backing would be saddled with billions in debt, leaving a trail of unfinished buildings. It wasn't that the bosses didn't want to build, they just didn't have the money. A broken link in the capital chain for a single building could trigger a catastrophic domino effect. A tycoon worth billions one day could wake up bankrupt and crushed by debt the next. It was an unavoidable trend, and Ethan Jang would be no exception. In his past life, even though Leo hadn't lived in Riverbend, he had followed the city's development closely. It took Jang's company over a decade to reach its peak, but its downfall took less than a month. What are you daydreaming about? Sophia's voice pulled him back to the present. Here. She handed him a bottle of ice-cold water. Tell me, Leo asked suddenly, if in the future you became really, really rich, what would you do? Sophia didn't know why he was asking this, but she thought about it for a moment before answering. Eat, sleep, read books, and, play video games. You have no ambition. Sophia didn't get angry at Leo's dismissive comment. She just turned the question back on him. What about you? What would you do if you were rich? Without a moment's hesitation, Leo replied, I'd pinch myself to see if I was dreaming. Sophia slapped her forehead, speechless. She turned to walk away, clearly deciding that talking to Leo was a waste of her time. I got a picture of that just now, a voice said. I'm sending it to Khloe when we get back. Not long after Sophia left, Kevin Liu appeared with his Canon power shot, proudly showing Leo the photo he'd just snapped of him and Sophia talking. Leo glanced at it. The lighting and angle were pretty good. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting a greenish glow. A few rays broke through the canopy, landing perfectly on Sophia. In the picture, she was looking up at Leo. Nice shot. Send me a copy later. That's it, Kevin said. Aren't you going to ask me to keep it a secret from Khloe? Kevin was slowly coming to terms with the fact that, in Khloe's eyes, Leo was probably more important than him. But he was the kind of guy who could accept defeat and move on. There would be better girls in college. Why would I need to keep it a secret? Seeing Leo play dumb, Kevin rolled his eyes in disgust. Aren't you afraid she'll get mad when she sees it? Why would I be? It's not like she hasn't been mad at me before. Kevin was speechless. He decided not to press the issue, afraid he'd have an aneurysm first. By the way, did you make any progress on that thing I told you about? I already promised those people. Leo sighed. He pulled out a cigarette and was about to light it when he noticed Kevin staring at him. Want one? A flicker of hesitation crossed Kevin's eyes. I don't know if I should. Suit yourself. Leo casually tucked the pack back into his pocket. He lit his cigarette and took a couple of smooth drags. The practiced motion had a certain roguish charm. Kevin's mouth twitched. He wanted to try one, just to see what it was like. His refusal had just been a polite formality. He never thought Leo would actually take him at his word. He made a mental note to buy a pack himself when they got back down the mountain. Leo, of course, knew what Kevin was thinking, but didn't call him out on it. He took another drag of his cigarette and said, I've already arranged for someone to contact the school in that town. From now on, I'll be providing all their school uniforms for free. 2 sets for summer, 2 for winter, plus an extra winter coat for every student. But our factory is already stretched thin. Sponsoring one school is our absolute limit. Kevin nodded. Thanks, he said sincerely. He felt that what Leo was doing was already more than enough. Leo's playful expression hardened. He turned to face Kevin. If thanks was worth anything, I'd say it all day long. Huh? What do you mean? Class president, I'm donating those uniforms to the school as a favor to you. Don't you think you should show some appreciation? Hearing this, Kevin quickly took 2 steps back, a look of horror on his face. What are you trying to do? Let's get one thing straight. I'm not in a guise. Cough. Cough, cough. Leo was so startled by Kevin's dramatic leap in logic that he choked on a lungful of smoke. What the hell? Are you trying to gross me out? Seeing Leo's expression, Kevin realized he'd overthought it. He gave an embarrassed chuckle. So what do you want from me? What could I possibly want from you? Kevin breathed a sigh of relief. Good. I'm an only child, no sister. Then he straightened up. Just tell me what you need. If I can do it, I will. Seeing his objective was met, Leo dropped the act. He turned to look out over Riverbend and said slowly, the clothes are the easy part. But the real problem isn't the clothes. It's the poverty. Kevin nodded in agreement. But he felt powerless, able to do so little. Even the uniform issue had been solved by Leo. When Kevin didn't speak, Leo continued, it's because of poverty that you have the problem of kids and seniors being left behind while their parents work elsewhere. They might not make a lot of money working in the city, but in their eyes, it offers more hope than staying in the village and farming. The money from farming just can't compare to a factory job. Kevin was smart and quick on the uptake. Hearing this, he started to understand. You mean, if we can give those young people a reason to stay, a hope for a better life here, they won't leave? And that hope is an opportunity to make money. Leo nodded. Class president, if you really want to help them, I have a proposal. Okay, I'm listening. Go see what local products they have that can be processed and sold as commercial goods. I define myself as a businessman, and businessmen chase profit. If there's a profit to be made, I don't mind setting up a factory there, even for a smaller margin. Leo finished and clapped Kevin on the shoulder before walking away. He didn't ask why Kevin was going to such lengths to help a small town. Everyone has their secrets. There's no need to pry. Besides, he could guess. An 18-year-old kid is idealistic, with little real-world experience and a heart full of sympathy for the downtrodden. If a few cute girls were looking at him with admiring eyes and calling him a hero, that would only fuel the fire. Leo was giving Kevin this opportunity for his own reasons, too. Doing a good deed was one part of it. But more importantly, he saw potential in the future of rural development and in Kevin's personal capabilities. This was a chance to test him, and maybe, just maybe, he'd be pleasantly surprised. Every successful person has a team of people supporting them. Leo wanted to build his own team, filled with people he knew and could trust. So far, Kevin was a potential candidate. Gina Zhao was maybe half a candidate. It was a long road ahead. As noon approached, the firewood was lit. A few students who knew how to cook were busy at the camp stove, sorting out the ingredients. Others were chatting or helping out where they could. When Leo walked over, someone asked him, "What were you two talking about? When did you and Kevin get so friendly?" Everyone in the class knew that Leo and Kevin were like oil and water. They couldn't be in the same room without arguing. Seeing them have a civil conversation was a rare sight. We were discussing our hopes and dreams, the vastness of the universe, and how to become productive members of society. Weirdo. Sophia giggled at Leo being shut down. After a moment, she composed herself. The owner has a fish pond here. We should go fishing this afternoon. There are crawfish in the fields nearby, too. We could catch those. And there's a stream in the mountains where we could catch crabs. Given the choice, Leo would definitely pick fishing, but his attention was elsewhere. Crawfish? Uh-huh. Like this, Sophia said, holding up a large crawfish she had in her hand. Late June, early July. Prime crawfish season. You want to eat spicy crawfish? Yes. In 2004, crawfish hadn't yet become a culinary craze in this part of Washington. Many had heard of them, but few had actually eaten them. When they saw Leo and Sophia cleaning a huge basin of the crustaceans, a group of students came over to help. High school graduates were still earnest, not yet jaded enough to shirk work. With everyone pitching in, over 10 pounds of crawfish were cleaned in less than half an hour. Here's the crab boil seasoning and the beer you wanted. Kevin and 2 other guys arrived, carrying a load of supplies. Just put it over there, Leo said, pointing to the camp stove they had just set up. The fire was roaring, and steam was rising from the pot. He tossed the seasoning into the pot, and the hot oil sizzled violently. The onlookers instinctively backed away, afraid of being splashed. Leo, however, was unfazed. He handled the cooking with practiced skill. Does he actually know how to cook? Many of them wondered aloud, incredulous. In their minds, Leo was the type to have everything handed to him. And it's really good, Sophia murmured unconsciously. This sent an even bigger ripple through the crowd. Gina Zhao narrowed her eyes, her face a mask of pure gossip. You've had his cooking before? Sophia realized her slip-up. The best course of action was to change the subject. I'm going to go buy some water, she announced before scurrying away. Gina watched her retreating back, stroking her chin thoughtfully. Something is definitely up. Oh, poor Khloe. No, wait, not poor Khloe. She's the one who rejected him. The fire was hot, and the pot of crawfish was ready in no time. Leo tried one himself first. The flavor was decent. It couldn't compare to the scientifically engineered deliciousness of a restaurant, but it was undeniably tasty. Try one. Leo offered the second one to Sophia. She took it without a second thought, ignoring the oil staining her hands as she peeled the shell and popped the meat into her mouth. Her eyes lit up, and she even licked her fingers clean. Not bad. Vindicated by Sophia's approval, Leo proudly poured the entire pot of crawfish into a large serving bowl. Dig in. The lunch spread was impressive. Though the presentation wasn't restaurant quality, everyone ate with gusto. Leo, if Khloe knew you could cook like this, maybe she wouldn't have rejected you. Someone commented. It's fine. She can just find a chef to marry in the future, Leo quipped. Too bad for her, though. The guys who cook better than me aren't as handsome, and the guys who are more handsome can't cook. Oh, shut up. We praise you a little, and you get a big head. If you ask me, another person chimed in, Khloe's beautiful, but her family is on another level. The pressure of being with her would be insane. Getting rejected might have been a good thing. Leo shook his head. What do you guys know? Have you ever heard of the glorious life of a trophy husband? A real shame I missed my chance, though. The group shot him a collective glare. Shameless. The crawfish disappeared faster than anything else. Some people were already asking Leo to make another batch for dinner, a bigger one this time. Leo didn't mind. It was a rare moment of relaxation, and he was happy to treat their taste buds. Kevin had been eating with his head down the whole time. He tried to speak up a few times, but seeing Leo deep in conversation with others, he'd wisely kept quiet. Leo hadn't noticed his strange behavior, but Sophia, sitting next to him, had. I think the class president has something on his mind. Leo finally glanced over at him, then picked up his bowl and went to sit beside him. What's up? You sick? With Leo right there, Kevin didn't hesitate any longer. That town we visited? It's full of these crawfish, but they're all treated like pests. They dig holes that collapse the rice paddies, and they eat the roots of the rice plants. Ever since Leo had mentioned finding a profitable local product, Kevin had been racking his brain. Crawfish seemed like a perfect option. Even if it meant they couldn't grow rice, this seemed far more profitable, and less work than planting and harvesting. I was wondering what was wrong, Leo said. Crawfish farming is a good option, but the season for eating them is concentrated in the summer. What about the rest of the year? What do you do then? Aquaculture isn't just about fish and crustaceans. There's also livestock. Leo clapped Kevin on the shoulder, casually wiping the grease from his hand onto Kevin's black shirt. It was dark, it wouldn't show. You can look up related farming industries online. As long as you can get them started, don't worry about the market. I'll take care of that. Seeing Kevin lost in thought, Leo added, just write up a business plan for me when you've thought it through. You do know how to write a business plan, right? If not, then never mind. Who are you looking down on? Just you wait. I'll have it for you in a couple of days. High school students rarely had any exposure to business plans. This was Leo's way of guiding him. Then I'm counting on you, Leo said before returning to his seat. Is the class president thinking of starting a business, too? Sophia asked between bites of food. Him? Start a business? With his personality, he'd be lucky if he wasn't scammed out of his underwear. It would be a miracle. Then what were you two discussing? Leo glanced around. Seeing that everyone else was lost in their own conversations, he leaned in closer to Sophia. I'm recruiting him to be my free labor, and he's pretty happy about it. Sophia shot him a look. You really are a bad person. Then she looked at him warily. You're not going to trick me like that one day, are you? Leo nodded magnanimously. I will. Before Sophia's expression could change, he quickly added, but don't worry. I'll tell you in advance and get your input first. That's more like it. Sophia nodded, satisfied. After a moment, she asked, so, what do you think would be a good business for me to start during summer break? Leo thought for a moment. Find a few teachers and start a tutoring center. Then advertise that you, the city's valedictorian, got your high score because you studied there. After that, just sit back and watch the money roll in this summer. Sophia's eyes widened as she listened. By the end, she'd put down her chopsticks completely. It almost had me convinced. But I'll pass. My conscience wouldn't be able to handle it. Leo chuckled. He knew she wouldn't do it, but he hadn't been entirely joking. A top score on the SATs was a huge advantage and a powerful marketing tool. In the years to come, it would become a standard business model. People with principles like Sophia were a rare breed. Leo wasn't nearly as principled. If it were him, he'd have done it in a heartbeat. Don't ask why. Principles don't pay the bills. After lunch, those who hadn't helped with the cooking conscientiously went to wash the dishes. Sophia took a phone call and then walked over to Leo. Leo. Seeing her grave expression, Leo had no idea what had happened. What's wrong? Sophia took a deep breath. The admissions officer from Stanford just called me. They asked if I was willing to attend. If I say yes, they'll come down this afternoon to have me sign the papers. Leo blinked, a little surprised himself. The official scores weren't even out yet, and they were already recruiting. Say yes. Isn't that what you've always dreamed of? Sophia's breathing was rapid. She was obviously incredibly excited, but she just smiled and shook her head. I turned them down. I've suddenly realized, she said, that there's something more important than that dream. After Sophia announced she'd rejected Stanford, Leo was stunned. It took him a long moment to process it. Are you sure you've thought this through? Sophia nodded firmly. Yes. The University of Oregon is great, too. At least it's closer to home. As her gaze remained fixed on him, Leo felt like the world had gone mad. Sophia wanted to keep talking, but her phone wouldn't stop ringing. It seemed Stanford wasn't the only one who knew her scores. She took one call after another, from her parents, from Mr. Schultz. They were all asking why she turned down Stanford, all try to change her mind. Everyone knew how hard Sophia had worked to get in. Now, with one foot already in the door, she was just walking away. Don't worry, everyone, I'm fine. I just think P2.She is too far from home. It's not convenient to travel back and forth. No, I don't regret it. After hanging up, Sophia saw that Leo was still standing there. She stuck her tongue out at him playfully. It's just not going to Stanford. Is it really that shocking? Leo nodded with absolute certainty. The fact that your parents haven't driven up here to tie you up and drag you to sign those papers with a Stanford rep shows incredible restraint. They would never. They've always respected my decisions. What could Leo say? He just gave her a thumbs up. Sophia smiled, a complex emotion swirling in her eyes. Aren't you going to ask me why I'm not going to the capital? Leo's breath hitched. He ventured a guess. Is it because you prefer the food in the Pacific Northwest? Sophia's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. That's what I used to convince myself to. Leo patted his chest, letting out a long sigh of relief. Oh, good, good. Seeing his relieved expression, Sophia looked at him strangely. Ahem. I was afraid you were doing it for me, he said. That would have been a huge guilt trip. So it's a good thing you're not. Sophia shot him a sidelong glance and scoffed. Oomph. You think pretty highly of yourself, don't you? Leo held up his hands. It's not that. It's mainly because I've decided not to go to Oregon anymore. I think I'll stay here in Washington. If you went there for me, I'd feel obligated to follow you, and that would be really awkward. Sophia's expression suddenly became volatile. For someone who was usually so composed, a flicker of panic crossed her face. Are you serious? Leo was quite pleased with her reaction. He nodded. That's the plan, but he trailed off, leaving her hanging. Seeing her tense expression, he couldn't help but laugh. Sophia realized he was teasing her. She couldn't stop herself from giving his arm a light punch. You really are a jerk. She turned and walked away. It seemed Leo's joke had rattled her, and she needed a moment to compose herself. After she left, Leo sighed. If only I were 10 years younger. But after a moment of wistful thinking, he realized something was wrong. Wait a minute. I am 18. And what should an 18-year-old be doing? He should be recklessly living his youth, hanging out in front of the girls' dorms, whistling at passersby, finding a girl to sneak into the campus woods with at night. If he didn't want to go to class, he'd just ask a roommate to sign him in. If he couldn't sleep at night, he'd go out for a few drinks and pull an all-nighter. Suddenly, Leo was filled with endless anticipation for his second youth. Watching Sophia's flustered retreat, he didn't follow her. Some impressions, once made, are hard to erase. The mountain afternoon was much cooler than the city. A small stream flowed through the woods, its water originating from a mountain spring, exceptionally clear and cool. Leo, are these crabs edible? Sophia, barefoot, turned over a rock and pulled out a crab. She held it up for him to see. Leo was carrying a bucket filled with small fish and shrimp, all fruits of Sophia's labor. He was at a loss for words. Other girls would usually say, the crab is so cute. I want to take it home and keep it as a pet. How is it that with you? The first question is whether you can eat it. Sophia blinked, looked at the crab, and then asked, this thing is cute. She glanced back at Leo. If you think it's cute, you can have it. Leo held out the bucket. They're delicious, deep-fried in flour. Catch some more. You got it. Not far from them, a few people were sitting on a large rock, their feet dangling in the river. Watching Leo and Sophia laughing and talking, they couldn't help but whisper among themselves. They both say there's nothing going on. Do you guys believe that? Gina Zhao was among them. She wanted to go catch crabs too, but she felt like she'd be a third wheel. So she could only watch them play, her patience wearing thin. The others shook their heads. I'm trying my best to believe it. One girl said with a mournful expression, if I can just convince myself, maybe I'll have the courage to go catch crabs too. Someone else grumbled, Leo's such a player. Just a few days ago he was inseparable from Khloe, and now he's all over Sophia. It's true what they say, another girl added. All the good ones are snatched up by jerks. But she was immediately countered by someone else. But Leo is really handsome, and he can cook. And the key thing is he knows how to make money. If he pursued me, I would definitely say yes. I could even handle him being a little bit of a player. It didn't matter their age. When 3 or more girls gathered, there was an endless supply of gossip. Leo, of course, had no idea what they were talking about. Sophia, wading through the stream, suddenly cried out, "What's wrong?" Leo had barely asked when he saw a splash of crimson in the water at her feet. Sophia frowned and sighed. "Why would there be glass here?" she said with weary resignation. Though she was hurt, she wasn't delicate about it. She waded to the bank and, not caring if the ground was dirty, sat down with a plop. Then she started examining her wound. "It hurts a little." The cut was about an inch long and looked deep. Blood was steadily flowing from the wound. "Wait here, I'll be right back," Leo said, and without waiting for a reply, he sprinted back toward the campsite. In that moment, he was profoundly grateful he'd listened to his mom and brought her first aid kit. When Sophia got hurt, the other students noticed and rushed over to help. But all they had were tissues, nothing particularly useful. Just as they were debating whether to take her to a hospital, Leo came running back, carrying the first aid kit. His face was covered in sweat from a sprint. Seeing him like this, Sophia couldn't help but laugh. Then, ignoring the stunned looks of everyone around her, she stuck her injured foot right in front of his face. "Is it pretty?" The heavy atmosphere was instantly shattered by her bizarre comment. "Do you think I'm a pervert? Or do you think I have some kind of weird fetish?" "I don't care about that," Sophia said, unbothered. "I just want to know, is it pretty?" Sophia was about 5'4", with a dainty size 6 foot. It was perfectly formed, with fair skin and not a single visible flaw. Leo couldn't bring himself to lie. "It's beautiful." Sophia pouted. "What a shame. It'll have a scar now. And it won't be beautiful anymore." Leo gently placed her foot on his thigh. He first disinfected the wound, then applied ointment, and finally wrapped it in a layer of gauze. "It's a small cut. It won't leave a scar. You'll just have to limp for a little while." Sophia didn't seem to mind. "As long as it doesn't scar, I'm fine. A little limp is okay. It's not like anyone's asking me out anyway." Leo had no response to that, so he chose to remain silent. After the simple bandaging, Sophia stood up and brushed the grass off her shorts. She took a couple of test steps. "Nice work." Just as she said it, she stumbled, nearly falling. Fortunately, Leo was right beside her, watching closely, and caught her just in time. "Oh, my eyes. Let's go, don't disturb them." Sophia's ears turned bright red. The usually calm and composed girl had a shy side after all. When she came to her senses, she whispered, "Aren't you going to let go?" Leo must not have hurt her. He showed no intention of releasing his grip. "Don't push yourself. I'll help you walk." Sophia tried to struggle free a couple of times, but realizing it was futile, she resigned herself to her fate, letting Leo support her with one hand on her arm and the other around her waist. After walking like this for a while, Sophia stopped. Leo looked at her, confused. "What's wrong?" "Maybe I should just walk by myself." The summer heat was already intense, and being pressed so close together made it even hotter. More importantly, walking like this was incredibly awkward and difficult. "Okay, you do you." Leo was also feeling hot and uncomfortable. He let go without a second thought. Sophia, who had been half leaning on him, lost her balance and stumbled downward. "Leo, you jerk." Leo spread his hands helplessly. "You're the one who said you wanted to walk by yourself." Sophia took several deep breaths, trying to keep her anger in check. But when she saw Leo pull out his phone and start taking pictures, her anger flared up again. "Don't you dare take pictures," she yelled, getting up to snatch his phone. Worried she would aggravate her wound, Leo didn't run. He just let her grab the phone from him. Just as Sophia was checking the photo album, the phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, Sophia immediately hit the answer button, turned on the speaker, and thrust the phone at Leo. Leo stared at the screen for a second, stunned. "Leo." The voice on the other end brought him back to reality. "What's up? What are you guys doing? Is it fun up on the mountain?" Khloe's voice was tinged with melancholy. She had desperately wanted to come, but Ethan had her on lockdown. Mornings were for piano, dance, and art lessons. Afternoons were for rotating internships at his company's various departments. Besides eating and sleeping, her every moment was scheduled. This call to Leo was a rare moment of freedom she had managed to carve out. Leo glanced at Sophia, who was standing nearby, with a faint smile, and his mood inexplicably lifted. Of course. It's amazing. I heard you made delicious crawfish for lunch. When are you going to make some for me? You already know we had crawfish for lunch? Uh-huh. They texted me. You're the only one who's too busy to send me any news. Khloe's tone held a hint of plaintiveness. Because the call was on speaker, Sophia heard everything. She looked at Leo with a half-smile, curious to see how he would respond. You know I'm busy, so why are you calling? I just wanted to hear your voice. It was easy to imagine Khloe on the other end, her face flushed red. It must have taken all her courage to say that. When Leo didn't reply, she asked again, What are you busy with? Busy looking for a girlfriend. Hearing this, Sophia looked up and met Leo's teasing gaze. She quietly mouthed the word jerk, then, her face blushing, she turned and limped away. Silence on the other end of the line. Leo didn't feel the need to explain. Just as he was about to hang up, Khloe finally spoke. Leo, I think I have a general idea of why you and my dad had a falling out that day. But he is him, and I am me. I'll try my best to convince him. When we get to college, okay. Leo froze. His thumb, which had been retreating from the hang-up button, hovered over it again. What did you say? Hello. My signal is bad. I can't hear you. Anyway, I gotta go talk to you later. Without waiting for Khloe to respond, Leo hung up the phone. He habitually reached for a cigarette. In his past life, Leo had never dreamed that Khloe would one day speak to him with such humility, but he didn't dwell on it. Khloe had always been the princess, coddled and adored by everyone. Leo didn't think he could provide her with the kind of all-encompassing protection she was used to, so he didn't get tangled up in it. He had let go of his past life. In this one, he just wanted to live his own life well. Finished with your call? I thought you left. Leo had clearly seen Sophia walk away, but somehow she was back. Seeing the unlit cigarette in his hand, she asked, Want me to light it for you? When Leo didn't answer, Sophia walked over, took the lighter from his hand, and held the flame to the tip of the cigarette. As Leo smoked, Sophia stood beside him and said, Khloe laid it all out for you. Just wait until college. Why did you have to reject her? Leo played dumb. What are you talking about? My signal really was bad. Sophia looked at him with disdain. Do you think I'm deaf or stupid? Seeing that he couldn't fool her, Leo sighed. He took a drag from his cigarette and said, I'd have to be crazy to agree. Noticing Sophia's confusion, he continued, The hardest debt to repay is an emotional one. If I agreed, my dreams for a great college life would be over before they even started. What if I meet a bunch of girls who are prettier than her in college? I'd be losing out big time. Sophia couldn't help but giggle. Well, you could have just agreed for now. At least you'd have a backup plan. Am I that kind of person? Leo retorted first. Then he thought about it and slapped his forehead. Wait, I think I am that kind of person. Why didn't you remind me sooner? TSK, you player. Leo nodded, not denying it. Glad we're on the same page. Sophia sniffed disdainfully. With that attitude, you won't find a girlfriend even in college. That's where you're wrong, Leo said, wagging his finger. As long as I have money, I'm sure I can find a few gorgeous girlfriends who are only after my money. Shouldn't be a problem. Sophia knew Leo was joking, but she couldn't bring herself to feel happy about it. She could only sigh. Then I can only wish for your speedy bankruptcy. Good luck. I'll take that as a blessing. In the skies above Riverbend in 2004, you could still see a sky full of brilliant stars. Every so often, a shooting star would streak across the darkness. Leo had borrowed a lounge chair from the camp owner and was lying back, leisurely counting them. The rest of his high school classmates were gathered around a bonfire, their laughter echoing through the night. You're not going to go chat with them? Sophia brought over some watermelon, handing a slice to Leo as she spoke. Leo threw up his hands in mock frustration. I was debating with them about whether Ryan Atwood from the O.C. is a deeply devoted boyfriend or just completely irresponsible. They couldn't win the argument, so they kicked me out. The O.C. was at its peak popularity, and much of the conversation was peppered with references to the show. Leo had waged many a war in the Class AM group chat over the complexities of Ryan and Marissa's relationship, nearly getting himself kicked out in the process. Sophia covered her mouth, stifling a giggle. If it were you, and you were Ryan, what would you choose? Leo's expression was hard to read. You think that's a multiple-choice question? And even if it is, who says you can only pick one answer? Sophia pondered this for a moment and then nodded. That's true. Thinking about it that way, he does seem a bit clueless. Leo smiled, gratified. It was rare to find someone who hadn't been brainwashed by teen drama logic. As expected of the valedictorian, your brain works much better than theirs. Speaking of valedictorian, something occurred to Sophia. I've been curious, she asked. Right after the SATs, how did you know for sure that I would be the valedictorian? Until the call from a Stanford admissions officer that day, she had assumed Leo was just joking. After all, valedictorian was a heavy crown to wear. Out of tens of thousands of students in the city, there was only one. But after the call, she had to accept it as fact. She'd learned from Mr. Schultz that she was the only student in the entire city to receive such an offer. She was thrilled, of course, but more than that, she was curious. How could Leo have possibly known? I guessed. How else would I know? Leo replied. You're not trying to back out of our deal, are you? You promised that if you were the valedictorian, you'd treat me to dinner. Sophia couldn't think of any other explanation, so she had to take Leo's word for it. And she certainly wasn't going to go back on her promise. It's just dinner. If you want, I can treat you every day. No can do, Leo retorted. The doctor says my stomach is fine. I don't need to be a kept man. In the dim moonlight, it was impossible to see the expression on Sophia's face, but a flicker of disappointment in her eyes vanished as quickly as it appeared. Fine, have it your way. So, what are your plans for the rest of the summer? Are you going to keep working on the apparel factory? Leo, oblivious to her change in mood, continued to munch on his watermelon. After these next couple of days, things are going to get crazy. Rush is just in its pilot phase here in Riverbend. If it's successful, I'm going to expand to the surrounding cities and counties. This summer is my time to hit the market and find distributors. I also have to make a trip to Portland. Khloe's cousin has been in touch with me about the market there. Sophia knew that Rush was Leo's brand. She had even helped him with some of the early advertising ideas, though she had never told anyone. Leo laid out his entire future development plan for Rush, detailing every step. Sophia listened completely mesmerized. Although she was more mature than her peers, she was still just an 18-year-old girl. Words like strategic planning and long-term vision were things she had only read about in books. But Leo was explaining them with his actions. When Leo finished, he saw Sophia staring at him, lost in a daze. He couldn't resist a joke. What? Are you starting to admire me after hearing my grand plan? Sophia nodded, admitting it freely. A little bit. Then she blinked playfully and added, but I'll stick to what I said before. I hope you fail. With that, she turned, her hands clasped behind her back, and walked away with a cheerful spring in her step. Leo could faintly hear her muttering as she left. TSK, if I fail, I'm just going to come live off of you. Leo called after her. Sophia continued walking without turning back, a sweet smile hidden in the darkness. Her lips moved. Okay, but Leo couldn't hear her. The original plan was to stay for 2 days and 1 night, but by the time dawn broke the next morning, the group was already clamoring to go back down mountain. They'd had fun, but the mosquitoes were relentless. Bug spray and citronella candles were useless. The only defense was to zip the tents up tight, but in the summer heat, even the nights were stuffy. Being cooped up in a hot tent was not a pleasant experience. Why does everyone have dark circles under their eyes? Sophia, on the other hand, had slept soundly. She emerged from her tent, stretched lazily, and looked at the exhausted faces of Leo and the others. By the way, here's this back. It's great. I'm going to buy one for myself, she said, handing Leo his small ceiling fan. The night before, Sophia had quietly swiped the fan. When Leo tried to get it back, she had just yelled pervert at the top of her lungs. As thick-skinned as Leo was, the collective glare from the entire group had been enough to make him retreat in defeat. Forget it, you can keep it, he grumbled. Let's go. I need to go home and catch up on sleep. Since Leo didn't want it, Sophia was happy to accept. It was the first gift he had ever given her. Are you mad? On the bus ride back, Sophia sat next to Leo again, but he just stared out the window, showing no intention of talking to her. Leo was brooding. What was happening to the world? The gentle, quiet Sophia had suddenly transformed into someone else entirely. Mischievous, playful, and even a little bit of a troublemaker. Don't be mad, Sophia cooed, pulling on his arm and whispering playfully in his ear. Of course, Leo wasn't actually mad. He was just feeling a little resentful about the disgusted looks everyone had given him last night when Sophia called him a pervert. If he'd actually done something perverted, he would have owned it. But he hadn't done anything at all. Leo turned his head to look at Sophia's smiling face. Do I look like a pervert to you? He asked irritably. Sophia first nodded, But then, meeting his gaze, she quickly realized her mistake and shook her head vigorously. No, no, of course not, she said, her words not matching her initial reaction. Leo's playful expression vanished, replaced by a serious one. No, you're wrong. I really am a pervert. And with that, before Sophia could react, he leaned in and planted a quick, soft kiss on her cheek. Sophia froze, completely stunned. When she finally processed what had happened, her breathing became rapid, and a crimson blush spread across her face. She quickly turned away, unable to look at him any longer. For a split second, she'd wanted to scream, but the sound wouldn't come out. A smirk played on Leo's lips. You call me a pervert? I'll show you a pervert. Luckily, most of the people on the bus were asleep. Those who were awake were minding their own business. No one saw what happened. Otherwise, the teasing would have started all over again. After Leo's bold move, Sophia lost all courage to speak. She spent the rest of the ride with her head down, fidgeting with her fingers. When the bus finally stopped, she grabbed her things and hurried off. Kevin was still reminding everyone to check their belongings and make sure they hadn't left anything behind, but Sophia was already long gone. What's with Sophia? Someone asked. Leo shrugged. Who knows? Love life, love sports, enjoy the world. Rush full of infinite possibilities. Rush, never give up. On the giant screen in the downtown commercial plaza, the Rush sportswear ad played on a continuous loop. It was the weekend, the busiest time for shoppers, and also the grand opening day for Rush's offline stores. Thanks to a relentless advertising blitz, the brand had become an overnight sensation throughout the city. Even 7-year-old kids were chanting "Never give up" as they walked, though they probably had no idea what it meant. Why are there so many people? Helen frowned as she stepped into the store, her voice filled with wonder. This was the flagship store Leo had custom designed, a 2-story, 8,000-square-foot space where every inch not occupied by clothing racks was filled with people. The sales associates, originally hired to help customers, had been relegated to acting as security guards, their sales pitches replaced with shouted warnings to watch your step. A wide grin was plastered on Leo's face. He had expected business to be good. After all, there weren't many dedicated sportswear stores in Riverbend, but he hadn't anticipated this level of chaos. He had just received word that the other 6 stores that opened simultaneously were also packed. Of course, this was largely due to the marketing strategies Laura Yin's team had implemented, as well as a little pre-planning on Leo's part. 70% of the first wave of customers were paid plants. Once a crowd forms, mob mentality takes over. Whether people were just curious or had actually intended to buy clothes, seeing others in a frenzy made them want to join in. Once the momentum was built, the rest was easy. Forget it. Let's come back tomorrow, Helen said, overwhelmed. Just as she was about to pull Leo out of the store, they were spotted by a familiar face. Well, hello, Dr. White. Fancy seeing you here. Leo and Helen turned in unison. Seeing the woman, a strange expression flickered across Leo's face. Brenda, you're out shopping too? Helen said. Brenda was a large woman, her face fleshy and round. When she smiled, her eyes narrowed into slits. You know my Josh's SAT scores came out? He scored more than 70 points above the cutoff for the top universities. I thought I'd bring him to buy some decent clothes for college. Her eyes landed on Leo. How did Leo do? His scores must have been great, right? I heard the city's valedictorian, Sophia Sue, is in your school. Leo remembered Brenda all too well. They used to be neighbors in the same alley before his family bought a house and moved. The reason he remembered her so vividly was because of her incessantly gossipy mouth. She was the source of more than half the neighborhood's rumors. And she had another hobby, showing off. Even if she knew it would hit a sore spot, she would say anything to make herself look good. Helen, of course, knew exactly what Brenda was up to. She just wanted to brag about her son's scores. She didn't rise to the bait, simply smiling and saying, yes, Sophia was in his class. But this one's mind wasn't on his studies. He didn't do so well, just barely made it into a 4-year program. Brenda's face lit up with smug satisfaction, but she feigned sympathy. Oh, what a shame. It's so hard to manage kids at this age. They're so rebellious. But you can't let him waste his days doing nothing. If he doesn't study hard now, how will he ever make enough money to support a family? Helen could only offer a weak smile and agree. Leo pretended he hadn't heard a thing. Who is this lady? A lunatic. Hearing Sophia's name, Josh, who had been quiet until now, looked up. His dark circles were deep, a testament to long nights of studying, so prominent that even his thick glasses couldn't hide them. You know Sophia, Sue? The day they came down from the mountain was the day the scores were released. Sophia, as the city's valedictorian, had been immediately interviewed by the local TV station. The school, eager for publicity, had plastered banners and announcements with her name all over town. Sophia Sue was now a household name. The crowd at Rush today was partly her doing. During her interview, when asked about her summer plans, she had mentioned that she loved sports and was planning to buy some new workout gear at Rush before learning to play tennis. Seeing Josh ask him a question, Leo could no longer feign ignorance. He just nodded, thinking to himself, so what if she's the valedictorian? After I kissed her, she didn't dare say a word. Can you give me her AIM screen name? I heard she turned down Stanford and wants to go to the University of Oregon. I want to go there too. Before Leo could speak, Brenda chimed in. Leo, you grew up together. Just give Josh the girl's AIM. Just as a little favor. Leo shook his head, about to refuse, but Josh spoke first. You don't have it, do you? I guess that makes sense. Sophia is such a good student. Why would she give her AIM to you? I'll just ask someone else. Leo wasn't about to get into an argument with a kid. He just smiled. It's not that I don't have it. I just don't want to give it to you. If you want it, you should ask her yourself. Just as Josh was speaking, Leo spotted Sophia in the crowd. She was holding a few items of clothing, clearly having just finished her shopping. When she saw Leo, she navigated through the throng and ran over to him, thrusting the clothes into his hands. I picked these out. You figure out. Josh was dumbstruck. Helen was equally stunned. Brenda didn't recognize Sophia, but seeing her familiar behavior with Leo, her imagination immediately concocted a grand drama. Dr. White, she said, her voice raspy and loud. You said Leo's mind wasn't on his studies. Could it be because he's dating? Sophia finally noticed the others standing nearby. Seeing Helen, she froze in embarrassment. Hello, Auntie. Helen nodded, her expression complex. So, Sophia, Josh tentatively called out her name. You are. Josh was suddenly so nervous he couldn't speak. One moment, he was trying to get her AIM, and the next, she was standing right in front of him. I. He's an old classmate of mine, Leo cut in. Did well on his SATs, probably going to the University of Oregon too. He wanted your AIM. Sophia, sensing the coldness in Leo's tone, knew this was not a friend. She shook her head and refused directly. Sorry, I don't use AIM. What about your phone number? Sorry, I don't have a phone. Leo silently gave Sophia a thumbs up. She caught it and gave him a playful wink. Ahem. Helen, who had witnessed their silent exchange, cleared her throat. Sophia, do you like these clothes? Let me buy them for you. Though she didn't know the exact nature of their relationship, it was clear from their interaction that Sophia's command for Leo to figure it out was not a joke. To save Leo's face, she was prepared to pay for him. She would, however, be having a serious talk with him when they got home. The clothes this girl had picked were not cheap. Hearing Helen's offer, Sophia looked surprised. You'll buy them for me. Her reaction puzzled Helen. Did I guess wrong? Only Leo knew it was over. It was all over. When Sophia looked at him, Leo had no choice but to reveal his hand. Mr. Chun, put these items on my account. Mr. Chun, the manager of this store, was someone Leo had personally hired. He had been following them since Leo walked in, careful not to interrupt. Now, hearing Leo call his name, he hurried over, bowing slightly with a wide grin. Right away, Mr. White. After Mr. Chin took the clothes, Helen finally turned to Leo. He's the manager here? I thought he was a shoplifter, the way he was sneaking around behind us. And what exactly is going on? Leo could only manage a sheepish grin. Well, you see, the legal entity for Rush is registered under the name Leo White. Leo White. This brand is yours. Helen was still in shock when Brenda shrieked. Impossible. How is that possible? You're just a kid. What's so impossible? Leo shot back. Aunt Brenda, I'm 18, the same age as your son. He can get into the University of Oregon. So what's so special about me starting a brand? Brenda's face was a storm of conflicting emotions. In the end, she didn't even buy any clothes, just turned and stormed out. It seemed she couldn't accept the reality of the situation. In her eyes, Leo was a good-for-nothing punk who couldn't compare to her son. Now, she had been brutally slapped in the face by the truth. Go on, keep showing off. Leo was finding the sight of Brenda and her son's hasty retreat rather amusing, but then he heard Helen's voice right next to his ear. The smile vanished from his face. He turned to look at her. Mom, the weather is so nice today. Let's go sunbathe. The weather is nice, she snapped. It's 100 degrees out. You go stand in it. Don't come back until you've been out there for a whole day. The mall's air conditioning made it easy to forget the blazing sun outside, but one look through the glass was enough for Leo to reconsider. He couldn't handle it. He turned to another Kevin Liu. He knew Helen was just angry that he had hidden this from her, and was just venting, so he tried to change the subject. If I get sunstroke, you'll be the one who's worried. So let's not. Why don't you see if there are any clothes you like? I'll buy them for you. Just as Leo had guessed, Helen's anger was mostly due to his secrecy. Beyond that, she was incredibly proud, even ecstatic. Her son, at only 18, had created a brand known throughout Riverbend. That was far more practical than any test score. Sophia, realizing what had happened, first shot Leo an apologetic look. If it hadn't been for her, this scene might not have played out. Though Leo didn't seem to mind, she still felt bad. She picked up a piece of clothing and approached Helen. "Auntie, I think this would look great on you. Would you like to try it on?" Helen took the garment, held it up to herself, but ultimately shook her head. "No, these are all young people's sportswear. They're not suitable for me." "You're young too," Sophia insisted. "This would look so vibrant on you. You could keep a few for when you go out and want to be active." Then, with a mischievous smile, she whispered, "Besides, Leo's paying. It's free." Helen was still hesitating, but hearing this, she reconsidered. She first shot Leo a look, then smiled at Sophia. "All right, I'll take this one." Sophia seemed to have an innate understanding of what middle-aged women liked, and they chatted animatedly as they continued their shopping trip. After leaving Rush, they went to another department store. Leo was laden with shopping bags, all filled with their purchases. At one point, Sophia went to the restroom, and Helen finally found her chance. She pulled Leo aside. "Leo, I remember you applied to the business school at the University of Oregon. Isn't that right across the street from the main U of O campus?" "I've never been. How would I know?" "You really don't know." Meeting Helen's gaze, Leo just shrugged. "Do you think I'm supposed to know?" Helen wanted to press further, but Sophia was already walking back towards them, so she had to drop it for now, resolving to continue the interrogation at home. She couldn't help but sigh. It really is better to have a daughter. They're so much more considerate. It was a common sentiment among parents. Those with daughters often said sons were less worry, while those with sons said daughters were better. In the end, it was just talk. Your own kid was always the best. Leo, however, nodded seriously. "Wanting to have her call you Mom? You could get a grown-up daughter for free." Helen, who had just taken a sip of water, sprayed it all out. "What did you just say?" "I said I love you, my dearest mother." Helen was caught between anger and amusement. She had no idea where Leo got his glib tongue from. "I'm warning you, don't mess around. Know your limits." "Don't worry, I get it. I won't make you a grandma at your young age." Helen could only sigh. Her son was grown. She couldn't control him anymore. She used to think she could use his allowance to keep him in line, but now that seemed like a naive fantasy. "Auntie, sorry to keep you waiting. Shall we keep shopping?" Helen smiled at Sophia and shook her head. "I have something to take care of, so I'm going to head out. You two have fun." It was a flimsy excuse. She just felt like she was being a third wheel and making them uncomfortable. She decided not to overstay her welcome. "Oh, Sophia, give me your number." Helen had a very good impression of Sophia. Setting aside her academic achievements, just their brief interaction had been delightful. And she had heard that the girl had turned down an invitation from Stanford specifically to go to the University of Oregon. She had been wondering why anyone would do that. Now, it was all becoming clear, and she was even more pleased. Sophia nodded, took out her phone, and saved Helen's number. She dialed it, let ring twice, and then hung up. "Okay, I'm off. You two have fun, and if Leo bullies you, you tell me. I'll take care of him." After Helen left, Leo finally relaxed. Shopping with his mother was too stressful. He turned to Sophia. "You have anything else to do? If not, I'm heading out too." Sophia shook her head. "I don't have anything planned." "Where are you going?" "Back to the office. To count my money." "I'm coming with you." Rush headquarters had moved out of the garment factory and into another office building not far from Ethan Jang's company. For now, they were only renting half a floor. The office was still sparsely furnished, but it had everything it needed. Finance, operations, marketing, sales, HR, all departments were up and running. Sales data from the 7 stores was being updated in real time. As Leo walked into the office area, he could feel the buzz of activity. Some people were coordinating inventory transfers, others were compiling data. "It's finally started to look like a real company," Leo murmured to himself. Someone finally noticed him, and greetings rippled through the office. They had a genuine respect for their young boss. "Mr. White is here. Here's the latest sales data as of 10 minutes ago. Please take a look." The former factory accountant, now Rush's CFO, was named Ms. Jang. She was in charge of all financial data. Seeing Leo, she walked over with a report. Leo glanced at it. In the 4 hours since the stores opened, they had already processed over 1,300 transactions, with total sales reaching a staggering $15,000. And that was just the beginning. While Leo was satisfied with the numbers, he knew it was too early to celebrate. The initial advertising costs alone had been over $30,000. Although sales were at $15,000, After deducting all costs, his profit was less than 5,000. And that 5,000 would soon be invested in the next market. It was a good thing the garment factory's business had picked up recently, bringing in a few thousand in daily revenue. Otherwise, his aggressive expansion would have been unsustainable. Clothing is a necessity, but the replacement rate is low, especially for sportswear. Most people only buy 1 or 2 new outfits a year. Business will be great for the first few days as we fill the existing market gap. But once that gap is filled, sales will drop off a cliff. What we need to do is open up markets in other regions before the Riverbend market becomes saturated. And we'll do it the same way, pave the road with advertising regardless of the cost. Ms. Jang nodded. She knew Leo had big ambitions. He wasn't just looking at the Riverbend market. He was aiming for the entire state, the entire country, and even international expansion. It was because they saw this potential in Leo that they were all working so hard. There's one more thing, Ms. Jang said after a moment's thought. A lot of people have been calling to inquire about franchising. Besides Riverbend, there are several other regions that have expressed interest. When would you like to meet with them? The franchising policy had been set by Leo. For a chain brand to quickly capture the national market, franchising was the only way. Others would spend the money to open and operate the stores, and he would just provide the goods and the brand name in exchange for a large chunk of the profits. There is still some time before the Olympics opening ceremony, and 2 months until Liu Xiang's gold medal race. Leo had it all planned out. A few days before Liu Xiang's race, he would start running the ads he had filmed. In addition to the standard Rush slogans, he would add a line, cheering on our Olympic athletes. With the sensational impact of Liu Xiang winning the 110-meter hurdles, Rush would be guaranteed to become a household name. Let Laura Yin's team handle the initial contact with these potential franchisees. Negotiate hard on the terms. We can offer a performance-based contract. We'll guarantee that by October, Rush will have a market awareness rate of over 50%. 50% brand awareness was Leo's bottom line. With a relentless advertising blitz, if he couldn't even achieve that, there was no point in continuing. He'd be embarrassed himself. Only with high awareness could they drive sales. When faced with 2 similar items of clothing, people almost always choose the brand they're familiar with. Ms. Zhang thought the performance-based contract was risky. But out of her trust in Leo, she didn't voice her concerns. She just nodded and went to make the arrangements. As Ms. Zhang left, she thoughtfully closed the door behind her, leaving Leo and Sophia alone in his office. What do you want to major in at college? Leo poured Sophia a glass of water and sat down next to her. I was thinking about electrical engineering and computer science. What do you think? The prospects are great. The most important thing is whether you like it. Sophia nodded. That's true, but I think I've decided to major in digital media now. I'm optimistic about the future of internet finance, and under those conditions, digital media seems like a better fit. Leo looked at Sophia with astonishment, which in turn confused her. What's wrong? Is it not a good choice? Leo quickly shook his head. It's not just good, it's brilliant. At 18, his own vision had been limited to what was right in front of him. The future was just an empty fantasy. For Sophia, to have her own insights into internet finance at this age, she was truly a genius. Leo continued, it's just like you said. In the future economic landscape, brick-and-mortar retail will be hit hard by the online economy. The ability to shop without leaving your home is the future. If you're interested, you could try running a website. Something like LiveJournal for sharing updates. I've even thought of a name for you. Call it Livewire. You could even create a ranking list. Call it the Hot List. Your mom had a lot of connections in the media, right? You could ask her to help get some celebrities to join. The goal is to use every means necessary to drive traffic. Once you have enough traffic, you can start inserting product ads and links for online purchases. Internet finance was another huge piece of the pie that Leo was eyeing. Outside of real estate, it was the industry with the most growth potential. He wouldn't dare touch real estate. The water was too deep, he'd drown. But internet finance was different. The domestic market was still relatively simple. The main issue was the prevalence of online scams. People chatting for years with an online girlfriend who turned out to be a bodybuilder with bigger muscles than them. This led the more traditional business tycoons to look down on this virtual market. It was precisely for this reason that Jack Ma had faced so many setbacks in his early entrepreneurial days. But Leo was bullish on it, so he encouraged Sophia to test the waters. Really? Is that possible? Sophia was still a bit hesitant. If you don't even try, then of course it's not possible. You have to try to find out. Look, I'll give you a grant from Rush. You go for it, with no strings attached. If you lose money, it's on me. Sophia's status as valedictorian and the fact that Stanford had tried to recruit her wasn't just due to hard work. It was also a testament to her above-average intelligence. Her hesitation was fleeting. She quickly nodded. Okay. Leo smiled, gratified. Go for it. You'll definitely succeed. You might even become a leader in the future of the internet. Sophia pouted. And what if I don't? If you don't? Leo thought for a moment. Then just pretend I never said anything. Seeing Leo's shameless expression, Sophia could only sigh. I should have recorded that. If I don't succeed, I'm blaming you. I'll pin all the responsibility on you. Leo's eyebrow twitched. He replied in a mock-serious tone. And if you succeed, it's all because of your brilliant management, right? Sophia nodded very seriously. Yes. The only way to deal with a rascal is to be a rascal yourself. Leo scooted closer to Sophia on the couch, so close she could smell the scent of his shampoo. What are you doing? Seeing Leo getting nearer, Sophia grew wary. The forced kiss on the bus had taken her a long time to get over. A wicked smile played on Leo's lips. A man and a woman, alone in a room. What do you think I'm doing? Hearing this, Sophia's nervousness vanished. She transformed back into the quiet, gentle, and seemingly weak girl she often appeared to be. Well, be gentle, okay? Leo was stunned. He was at a complete loss. Wasn't she supposed to put up some token resistance? A playful smile bloomed on Sophia's face. You're all talk, aren't you? All bark and no bite. Damn it, Leo muttered, as if he'd been provoked. He seemed to lose all reason, leaning in towards her. Ow! A moment later, Leo yelped in pain. Are you a dog? He pulled away from Sophia and rushed to the mirror to check his lip. Thankfully, it wasn't bleeding, but it stung. She had really bitten down hard. Sophia's cheeks were flushed a deep red, but she forced herself to remain calm. I'm a tiger. You shouldn't provoke me. You're a tiger? Then I'm a tiger hunter. Huh. A tiger hunter wouldn't be a pervert. Leo sat back down next to her. He'd been bitten, but at least she hadn't run away. That meant the conversation could continue. I can't be bothered to argue with you, you-she tiger. You're the tiger. At most, I'm a tiger cub. Then tell me, what sound does a tiger cub make? Roar, Sophia said, and then lunged at him again, this time aiming for his hand, not his lips. She wasn't as shameless as Leo. After a bit more roughhousing, they finally settled down. Sophia's hair was a mess, mostly because Leo had been holding her head to stop her from biting him. She was still glaring at him, fuming. She hadn't gotten the upper hand at all. Leo, yes, you have to take responsibility for me. You kissed me. Twice. Seeing Sophia's righteous indignation, Leo was unconcerned. Fine, I owe you one. Why don't you kiss me back? Then we'll be even. Jerk. In your dreams. Then how do you want me to take responsibility? Sophia froze. She realized she'd gotten carried away. But the words were already out, and she couldn't take them back. She could only lift her head and stare at him with wide, pleading eyes. Crying was out of the question. She would just keep staring. Stare until Leo couldn't take it anymore. Maybe you should fix your hair first. Leo was worried someone would walk in and get the wrong idea, especially with Sophia's disheveled hair and wounded expression. It was a classic scene of a good girl and a bad boy. Sophia also realized they were in an office and that it would be bad if someone saw them. She took a comb out of her bag, but she had no intention of using it herself. She handed it to Leo. You do it. Leo had never combed a girl's hair before. He took the comb, feeling a bit lost. He couldn't help but grumble. You're such a handful. Sophia shot him a triumphant look. What? You don't want to? I do, I absolutely do, Leo said, his words dripping with sarcasm. He pushed his own executive chair over and gestured for Sophia to sit. Then he stood behind her and gently began to comb her hair. Sophia's hair was soft and smooth, clearly well cared for. Leo's movements were clumsy and unfamiliar, but he was incredibly careful, afraid of hurting her. Sophia was delighted, swinging her feet and humming a little tune. After her hair was combed, Sophia stood in front of the mirror to inspect his work. She seemed satisfied. She turned back to him with a smile. Not bad. I'll let it slide this time. I know you're busy, so I won't take up any more of your time. I'm going to go home and do some research on building that website. Sophia had her own ambitions. As much as she enjoyed being with Leo, she understood the principle of not overdoing it. She wouldn't cling to him relentlessly. Okay, sounds good. Let me know what you find out, and I'll transfer you the money. Leo had afternoon appointments, so he didn't press her to stay. He just added a reminder, but we have a deal. It's not a freebie. Once Livewire is up and running, you have to provide free advertising and PR support for Rush. Sophia waved her hand dismissively. I know. We haven't even started yet, and you're already worrying about the future. That's because I have faith in you, Leo said. If you want to do it, I have no doubt you'll succeed. Sophia smiled without another word. With a wave, she headed for the door, not asking Leo to walk her out this time. After watching her leave, Leo looked down at his own hands. He could still faintly smell the scent of her shampoo. The franchise fee is $3,000. The brand usage fee is $2,000. The security deposit is $5,000. And the first inventory purchase must be at least $7,000. Laura Een was dressed in a chic business outfit, her long, slender legs wrapped in black stockings under a form-fitting skirt. Just a glance was enough to make one's heart race. According to your requirements, only 5 people are willing to move forward with franchising, she continued, looking at Leo. But they all insist on the performance-based contract. If we don't achieve 50% market awareness by October, we have to pay them a $5,000 penalty and buy back all their unsold inventory at the full retail price. The terms of the deal were incredibly harsh. The penalty was one thing, but buying back inventory at full retail price was almost unheard of. By any rational measure, they should never agree. But Leo nodded without hesitation. We can do that. This surprised even Laura. But she had grown accustomed to Leo's ability to pull off the unexpected. Besides, it was his company. She was just a partner. She didn't press the issue. Okay, I'll have the legal department draw up the contracts. We should be able to get them signed this afternoon. After discussing the franchise issue, Laura continued. The market expansion work in the surrounding cities and counties is also underway. We're still using the store-within-a-store model. We've signed contracts with a total of 15 stores across 4 different counties. The advertising campaigns are also in progress. We expect to be able to open in about a week. It had only been a week since the first Rush store opened in Riverbend, and sales had already topped $100,000. The original store owners, though they only received a 20% commission, were ecstatic. They hadn't made this much profit in a single month before, and this was just the beginning. However, their money wouldn't be paid out for another month. During that time, Leo had full control over the funds. Since 20% of the revenue was enough to cover the costs of the storefront and renovations, Leo considered it a good deal. In any case, it was only a 1-year contract. If they wanted to renew after a year, the terms would be very different. With their promotion, this win-win partnership model quickly spread by word of mouth, reaching even the surrounding counties. This was why Laura's team had been able to make such swift progress. There's one more thing, Laura said after finishing her report, feeling it was necessary to bring it up. What is it? Leo was very satisfied with Laura's work. If he weren't so tight on funds right now, he would have hired her entire team to work exclusively for him. Seeing her expression turn serious, he straightened up. The factory's production output is currently struggling to keep up with Rush's expansion. Mr. Carl said he was handling it, but there hasn't been any news. If we don't solve the production issue, it doesn't matter how big we make the market. After Leo nodded to show he understood, Laura excused herself. It wasn't her problem to worry about. She only mentioned it because she had high hopes for both the Rush brand and for Leo himself. Leo knew that production was a major issue. After the last expansion, the factory's monthly output was around 100,000 units. This should have been enough to meet Rush's needs. But to ensure his own financial stability, his uncle Carl was still running the consignment sales model. Because the first batch of returns had gone so smoothly, he had even offered some compensation. The factory's reputation had soared. Small-time merchants from all over the state were flocking to him. After all, even if they couldn't sell the goods, they could return them at the end of the term and get their money back. It was a no-lose proposition. Carl, having tasted the sweet success of this model, was determined to continue. The fact that he was willing to allocate 60% of his production capacity to Leo was already a sign of deep affection. As Carl put it, it wasn't about the money or the production volume. It was about leaving Leo a safety net. He felt that Leo's current approach was far too risky. Leo understood his uncle's perspective. If he were in Carl's shoes, he would also find his own actions dangerously reckless. He might look successful and wealthy on the surface, but he was standing on the edge of a bottomless pit. A single misstep in any part of the process could trigger a chain reaction that would lead to his ruin. After all, the inventory belonged to his uncle, the stores belonged to the shop owners, and all the money he had invested was sunk into unrecoverable advertising costs. But Leo wasn't worried. It wasn't just his confidence in his market analysis and his knowledge of the future. Even in the worst-case scenario, if he failed, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Rush was his own company. He could just declare bankruptcy and liquidate the assets. He was young. He could afford to take a hit. What he feared more was choosing to play it safe at an age when he should be taking big, reckless swings. Leo picked up the phone to call his Uncle Carl, but just then his phone rang. It was Carl. "Leo, I found another garment factory. They're willing to do contract manufacturing for us. They'll produce the clothes, and we just have to put our label on them." "Arty, you old dog, you really pulled it off." The clinking of glasses and boisterous laughter filled the private room of the steakhouse. After a few rounds of expensive scotch, the tipsy bravado turned to slurred confessions. "Now that you're back in the big leagues, don't forget about us old-timers, huh? Leave a little something on the table for your friends." Uncle Carl was beaming, his face flushed with booze and victory. He'd had more than a few drinks himself. Just a few weeks ago, the stress of his collapsing line of credit had nearly turned his hair white overnight. Now, not only was the problem solved, but he had a whole new market opening up. The future looked bright. Hearing the flattery from another local garment factory owner, his grin stretched from ear to ear. "Ha ha ha, don't you worry. We go way back. As long as I'm eating, you won't starve. That's why I'm here, right? To do a little business." Carl clapped a heavy hand on Leo's shoulder. "Arty, this is my nephew, my actual nephew. Leo White," he announced with immense pride. "He's the reason my factory was brought back from the dead." Carl had no children of his own and had always treated Leo like a son. Seeing the kid succeed made him swell with a joy that was all his own. Arty Higgins turned to Leo, his face crinkling into a wide, practiced smile. "Leo, sharp-looking kid. A real go-getter, I can tell." "You're too kind, Mr. Higgins," Leo said politely. "I just got lucky. Luck is part of the game, son. From now on, I'll be looking to you to lead the way." Businessmen like Arty were old foxes. They'd grovel and shower you with praise when there was money to be made, not caring a bit if it meant kowtowing to a teenager. But the second the well ran dry, they'd disappear without a second thought, leaving you to fend for yourself. It was the oldest story in the book. When Uncle Carl had been in trouble, he'd called every single one of them. They'd all had excuses. Now that he'd weathered the storm, they were crawling out of the woodwork. Leo knew better than to take their words at face value. With men like this, you only had to focus on one thing: mutual interest. "You're flattering me, sir. I'm just a kid. I couldn't possibly presume to lead anyone. But there's money to be made, and we can all make it together." When Arty first saw Leo, he'd figured the kid's age would make him an easy mark. But after a few minutes of conversation, he realized Leo was untouchable, deflecting every attempt at manipulation. Still, Arty kept the cheerful act going. "Well said," he boomed. "To making money together." After another round, Uncle Carl put his glass down and slid into the seat next to Arty. "Okay, Arty, I did what you asked." His voice was low and serious now. "The manufacturing contract is a done deal. Now, what about what you promised me?" Carl knew exactly what kind of snake Arty was. He'd only agreed to this partnership because Arty had information he needed, a move he'd cleared with Leo beforehand. Arty, who had seemed dead drunk just a moment ago, shook his head as if to clear it and took a sip of water. "Carl," he began, his voice raspy, "I know what I did wasn't right. I know you probably looked down on me, deep down." Arty pulled out a pack of cigarettes, passed them around the table, and lit one for himself. "But I was in a tough spot. And honestly, I never thought you'd pull through this time." Uncle Carl's face was a stony mask. He didn't interrupt. Arty leaned back in his chair, exhaling a perfect smoke ring. "Did you ever stop to think why the bank and your suppliers all came down on you so hard? Right at the most critical moment?" Carl nodded slowly. Normally, if he was a little late on a loan payment or a supplier invoice, they'd just tack on a penalty fee. This time, they'd shown no mercy. He'd tried calling in every favor he had, but every door had been slammed in his face. A complex, bitter smile crossed Arty's face. "Someone wanted you dead in the water, Carl. This world runs on connections, and it was obvious that whoever was behind it had way more juice than you or I could ever dream of. That's why everyone else fell in line without a second thought." He paused, looking directly at Carl. "Are you sure you still want to know?" Carl glanced at Leo. "Leo, why don't you run out and grab me another pack of smokes?" In his uncle's eyes, no matter how clever Leo was, he was still just a kid who hadn't seen the darker side of the world. He wanted to protect him from it, worried that knowing the truth would make him do something reckless. But Leo simply reached into his own pocket and placed 3 packs on the table. "Marlboros, Camels, American Spirits. Take your pick," he said coolly. "Don't be shy." Carl started, but Leo cut him off. "Don't worry about me," Leo said, leaning back and pulling out his phone. "I'm deaf. Can't hear a thing." Seeing that Leo wasn't going anywhere, Carl gave up. He just shot him a stern look. "No matter what you hear, you're not to do anything impulsive. Understand?" Leo just shrugged, tapping his thumb on his phone screen as he crossed his legs, already lost in a game. Defeated, Carl turned back to Arty. "Go on. Tell me." Arty watched Leo for a moment. a flicker of amusement in his eyes. This kid was something else. He took another drag from his cigarette. The reason I'm even sitting here with you today is partly because I want a piece of your new orders, he admitted. But the main thing is, now that you have Rush Sportswear, you're not going to be competing for the Kappa contract anymore. There's no conflict of interest. He leaned in closer. You probably don't know this, but Kappa is planning to build their largest production facility in Asia right here in our backyard. They're planning to invest hundreds of millions in the first phase alone. Carl's eyes widened in shock. He knew Kappa was looking for a local manufacturing partner, but he had no idea their plans were this massive. He frowned, about to speak, but Arty anticipated his question. With how tight government regulations are on foreign companies, the only way they can build a factory on U.S. soil is through a joint venture. They weren't interested in your equipment, Carl. They just wanted your permits and your footprint. Understanding dawned on Carl's face. And you damn fool, we're still trying to get a piece of that pie, Arty said, his tone a mix of mockery and reluctant admiration. At least Carl had the guts to try. Arty himself wouldn't have dared. Lou's old factory was bought out 6 months ago. The guy who bought it is Ethan Jang's brother-in-law. He's got connections at City Hall, too. Arty let the sentence hang in the air. Then, he slumped forward, laying his head on the table. Man, I'm suddenly so drunk, he mumbled. The Jang Corporation. Ethan Jang. Carl whispered, his face turning dark. Ethan Jang was an immovable mountain in Riverbend. His brother-in-law would absolutely have the power to pull a move like that. Damn it, Carl sighed. What could he do, even knowing the truth? Fighting back would be like an ant trying to shake a tree. Utterly hopeless. Leo sighed too, a quiet breath. Somehow, it all circled back to Ethan Jang. He kept his eyes glued to his phone, playing his game as if he hadn't heard a single word. Your boss has had too much to drink, Carl said, walking to the door and calling Arty's driver in. Get him home safely. After making the arrangements, he and Leo left the restaurant. The moment they were gone, Arty Higgins pushed himself up from the table, his eyes perfectly clear and sober, and stared intently at the doorway where they had disappeared. On the drive back, Uncle Carl didn't mention a word about what they had learned. He was worried about Leo, terrified that the boy would do something rash now that he knew the truth. But seeing him still hunched over his phone, completely absorbed in his game, Carl shook his head. He was probably overthinking it. By the way, Carl said, glancing over from the driver's seat. Have you been in touch with Khloe lately? Leo was playing Snake on his old Nokia, his eyes fixed on the tiny screen. Why would I? He replied without looking up. As if on cue, his phone buzzed to life with a familiar ringtone. The name, Khloe Jiang, flashed on the screen. Without a second thought, he hit the ignore button. He was about to beat his high score and had no time for a call. A moment later, it rang again. The caller was persistent. After the third time, Leo gave up on his game, answering with an annoyed sigh. What do you want? Can't you be a little nicer to me? The voice on the other end was small and hurt, but Leo was immune to its charm. If that's all you call to ask, I'm hanging up. Don't. His attitude was terrible, but at least he'd answered, Khloe told herself. She rushed to get to the point before he made good on his threat. My dad's been super busy lately, so he's not watching me as much. Can I come see you tomorrow? It had been almost a month since she'd been grounded. A month without seeing him. Logically, she should have gotten used to his absence. But life was strange like that. Even when they were apart, she found herself thinking about him constantly. The memory of him carrying her on his back to the hospital, the days they'd spent running the stall together. Even his current indifference couldn't erase those moments. She stubbornly believed it was only because they hadn't seen each other in so long. Once they were together again, everything would be fine. It was, of course, wishful thinking. Can't tomorrow, Leo said flatly. I've got to sign contracts with the new franchisees and plan the new store openings. I'm slammed. It wasn't an excuse. He really was buried in work. As Rush Sportswear grew, its weaknesses were becoming apparent. He didn't have enough people, and the ones he had lacked the right experience. Most of his key staff had come from the garment factory. They knew manufacturing inside and out, but running a national sportswear brand was a different beast entirely. Leo saw how hard they were working, but some things couldn't be solved by effort alone. He wasn't heartless. He was giving them time to grow. But in the meantime, he had to do most of the heavy lifting himself. Hearing this, Khloe's voice brightened. I've been learning in my family's business development department. I can help you. Leo knew she meant well, and he didn't doubt her ability. After all, Ethan Jang was grooming her to take over the company. But he still refused. That's great. You should focus on that. Roll up your sleeves and work hard at your dad's company. My little operation doesn't need your big league talent just yet. Khloe wouldn't give up. Her father was finally distracted, loosening his grip on her. If she didn't see Leo now, she might not get another chance. I'll be waiting for you outside your office building tomorrow morning, she declared. It's decided. Bye. Before Leo could protest, she hung up. Khloe, are you off the phone? Khloe's home was a sprawling, modern estate. Besides her parents, only a few staff members lived there. She had scanned the area before making the call, ensuring she was alone. But somehow, Ethan Jang had appeared silently behind her. His voice made her jump. Dad, you're home. I thought you had a meeting at the office. The meeting ended, so I came home, Ethan said, settling onto the sofa. The vast living room felt empty with just the two of them. Khloe. After a moment of silence, Khloe braced herself for a lecture. She had already prepared her counterarguments. But her father's tone was unervingly calm. Do you not understand why I don't want you seeing Leo? Do you think I'm just being a snob, looking down on him because he doesn't have money? Khloe knew she should shake her head and deny it, but this time she didn't. She just watched her father, waiting for him to continue. When she remained silent, Ethan went on. The first time I met Leo was that night. To this day, I haven't been able to find out who drugged your drink. Without evidence, I can only look at who stood to gain the most. Khloe frowned, a horrible thought dawning on her. You don't think it was Leo, do you? But he looked like he didn't gain anything, right? Ethan finished her sentence for her. He gave a small, humorless laugh. I thought so too at first. But think about it. After that night, your entire opinion of him changed, didn't it? The way you treated him before. It wasn't like this. When I first had that thought, I felt guilty, like I shouldn't be applying a conspirator's mindset to a kid. But his performance these last few months has been too brilliant. The way he operates in business. Even I'm astonished by his shrewdness. His voice dropped. I can't afford to gamble. Because you, Khloe, are the only daughter I have. Khloe's head was spinning. But as her father laid it out, she realized it was true. Her attitude toward Leo, and his toward her, had shifted dramatically after that night. After a long moment, she lifted her head, her large eyes glistening. But her voice was firm. He's not that kind of person. Ethan nodded. I hope he isn't. But until I have a definitive answer, I won't approve of you seeing him. Everyone thinks differently, sees the world through their own lens. Whatever Ethan Jang was to the outside world, in front of Khloe, he was just a father. He wouldn't allow his daughter to be wronged or taken advantage of. He wouldn't allow anyone with ulterior motives to use her. He had seen too many schemes and betrayals in his life. As a father, he felt it was his duty to scrutinize anyone who tried to get close to his daughter with the most cynical eye possible. If Leo knew his thoughts, he'd probably agree with the principal. Even if he was the one under suspicion, he would likely be even more protective. But this time, Khloe was unshakable. What do you think Leo's grand plan is? What does he want from me? Is it about money? Ethan paused, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He didn't have a rebuttal. Khloe pressed on. I've seen the initial business plan and marketing strategy for Rush Sportswear. He had 4 different growth strategies. Getting outside investment was only one of them. Most of the plans were about how to bootstrap the company from nothing. And he did it. She took a breath, trying to keep her voice steady. Dad, I respect your opinion, but please, respect my feelings too. I'll say it again, Leo is not that kind of person. A thought suddenly struck her, and a small smile touched her lips. A while ago, I bought him a cell phone with the money we earned together. It felt really good. Dad, I'm going to see him tomorrow. And don't worry, I won't take my credit cards. I never wanted your assets. What I want is a simple life, with more time together. Not a life like yours and Mom's. When Leo saw Khloe standing outside his office building the next morning, her eyes were still puffy and red. The first thing he said was, Who beat you up? Nobody, she retorted. It's your fault. How is it my fault? Khloe quickly summarized the conversation with her father, then looked at Leo, her expression earnest. You're not that kind of person, right? She expected him to be moved, to swear up and down that he wasn't. Instead, Leo slapped his forehead with a look of theatrical regret. Damn it, I am that kind of person. Why didn't I think of that sooner? What a missed opportunity. Khloe shot him an angry glare, her lips pouting. Well, it's too late now. I told my dad I don't want his assets or his money anymore. I'm going to make my own. What are you doing? Khloe yelped as Leo reached out and placed the back of his hand on her forehead. She swatted it away, confused. Leo stroked his chin, a frown on his face. You don't have a fever, he mumbled. So how did you become such an idiot? You're the idiot. Khloe snapped, changing the subject. She held out her hand. So about my salary? The promotional fee for the factory ads. Leo had almost forgotten. He vaguely remembered promising her some kind of payment. He thought he was just placating her at the time, but he never imagined she'd remember. He was starting to realize she was serious about this. Go home, apologize to your father, tell him you were wrong, and then go find a nice, quiet corner to sit in, Leo said, trying to wave her away. He didn't have time for this. Nope. You owe me. Pay up. Ahem. Ms. Jang, the CFO, knew Khloe was in Leo's office and didn't want to interrupt, but the meeting was about to start. She cleared her throat loudly from the doorway. Mr. White, everyone is waiting for you. I'll be right there. I'm coming with you, Khloe declared. Seeing that she wasn't going to leave, Leo sighed and let her follow him. Having her there might actually be useful. The purpose of the meeting was to sign franchise agreements with several store owners. While the broad strokes had been settled, the signing was always a final battle over details. Mr. White, about the franchise fee. Any chance we could get a little discount? One of them asked. Sure, Leo replied so quickly it stunned everyone in the room. If you go with the first partnership model, there's no franchise fee at all. You don't have to worry about a thing, and you still get a cut of the profits. It's a great deal. The first model was the store-within-a-store consignment partnership. The owner provided the decorated space, and Leo's team would run the rush section. It required a higher initial investment from Leo for a smaller profit share, making it suitable only for failing clothing stores. It wasn't for this group. The store owners chuckled awkwardly. You're pulling our leg, Mr. White. The franchise fee is fair, of course. It's just, the initial inventory order is a bit large. We were wondering if maybe. Also possible, Leo said smoothly. If you don't sign the performance-based contract, we can be flexible on anything. No, Mr. White is being so straightforward, we shouldn't drag our feet either, one of them said quickly, grabbing a pen. Here, my contract is signed. Take a look. The main reason these people were willing to pay so much to franchise a relatively unknown brand like Rush Sportswear was a performance-based contract. A guarantee to achieve 50% market awareness within a few months, or they'd get a penalty payment. It was an incredible deal. There was no way for them to lose. Isn't this performance contract a little too risky? Khloe whispered, sitting beside Leo. It was supposed to be Ms. Jang's seat, but the CFO had tactfully given it up, knowing Khloe was Ethan Jang's daughter. Her presence alone was an honor. It has to be risky, Leo said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Otherwise, how could I give you all peace of mind? The franchisees chuckled, their confidence bolstered. Mr. White is a man of vision. He must have it all figured out. Leo shook his head. Who can predict the future? For example, I never would have predicted that this young lady would be here today. He gestured toward Khloe, who looked at him, completely baffled. The other men, all seasoned veterans of business, immediately picked up on the cue and looked at her with newfound curiosity. Leo gave Ms. Jang a subtle nod. After signing the documents, he led Khloe out of the room, leaving the rest to his CFO. The moment Leo was gone, one of the men leaned toward Ms. Jang. Ms. Jang, who was that? Her. Ms. Jang said casually. That's the daughter of Mr. Jiang, CEO of the Jiang Corporation. What? I had no idea, Mr. White had those kinds of connections. Despite the performance contract, not many had signed on to be franchisees. Without some extra leverage, expanding the market would be tough. Leo knew the best time for a major promotional push would be during the Olympics, especially after a few key athletes won their medals. An ad that said, "So comfortable, even Lu Xiong wears it," would be irresistible to the public. He had to expand his market footprint before the games. Otherwise, the ads would air, people would want to buy the product, and they wouldn't be able to find a store. The consignment model was fast, but the company couldn't keep up with the staffing demands. Franchising was the only way. He just had to provide the goods and the brand. The franchisees would handle the rest. Leo, was that what they call borrowing someone else's power? Khloe demanded once they were back in his office. Leo looked a little guilty as he started peeling an apple for her. Was it? I don't think so. Khloe was relentless. Yes, it was. Okay, you're right. I'm sorry, Leo said, admitting his fault immediately. Apologizing was one thing. If the tactic worked, he'd use it again. You don't have to apologize. Khloe waggled a finger at him. Just pay me. It's a reputation fee. $500. Leo froze, then quickly grabbed his phone and dialed. Ms. Jang, I need you to tell those franchisees something. That Khloe Jiang girl? She's a fake. Not the real Jiang Corporation daughter. Leo, you jerk. Khloe shrieked, lunging for his phone. When she snatched it, she saw he hadn't even completed the call. Her face turned beet red as she glared at him. Leo was unfazed. 500 is too much. Hearing this, Khloe's bluster faded. How about 300? She ventured. 200 would be okay, too. To see a beautiful, wealthy heiress haggling over a few $100s was a strange sight. Leo felt a twinge of pity. He emptied his pockets, counted out all the cash he had, and handed it to her. It was, by sheer coincidence, exactly $250. Leo, are you insulting me? Khloe was thrilled at first, but after she counted the money, her face fell. The number, while meaningless in English, felt oddly specific. Leo just shrugged, holding his hands out. You don't want it? Give it back. Khloe quickly stuffed the bills into her purse. No way. I'll take the insult as long as I get paid. She muttered under her breath, a big-shot CO, haggling with a poor, helpless girl over a couple $100. Helpless girl? A helpless girl who drove an Audi, right, after graduating high school? Leo didn't want to argue. Right now, Khloe had a one-track mind, and it was focused on money. A little while later, Ms. Jang came back into the office after settling everything with the franchisees. She was surprised to see Khloe still there, but addressed Leo professionally. Mr. White, they've all transferred the funds. 6 franchisees for a total of $1,020,000. She paused. Including the previous revenue in our account, we now have over $2 million in cash. Normally, you wouldn't discuss company financials in front of an outsider. But in Ms. Zhang's mind, Khloe wasn't really an outsider. Besides, she figured the daughter of Ethan Jang wouldn't care about such a sum. She was wrong. The old Khloe might not have cared. The new Khloe had burrowed deep into the world of dollars and cents. $2 million? Khloe shot up from the sofa. Leo, did you rob a bank? He gave her a disdainful look. Robbing a bank doesn't pay this well. Khloe thought about it for a second and nodded dumbly. You're probably right. Seeing she wasn't needed, Ms. Zhang excused herself and left the office, feeling a bit awkward. Once they were alone, Khloe walked over to Leo, her big eyes wide and pleading. Leo, when Sophia started her business, you gave her $100,000 in seed money. Khloe had kept in touch with Sophia and knew that Leo, through Rush Sportswear, had invested in Sophia's new Livewire social media venture. It was this knowledge that had given her the courage to defy her father and come find Leo. Leo ignored her, focusing on modifying a business proposal on his computer. Khloe wasn't offended. She continued, well, I want to try something too. Leo took his hands off the keyboard and sipped his tea. What do you want to do? First, give me a proposal. I'll evaluate the risk and then decide whether to invest. He had some spare cash now and wasn't opposed to funding a dreamer, as long as they didn't take him for a fool. The proposal he was currently editing was from Kevin Liu regarding rural investment and development. The immediate profits were low, but the marketing effect for the Rush brand would be priceless. He wasn't opposed to Khloe starting a business. They were classmates. Good ideas deserve support. Khloe pouted. Did Sophia give you a proposal? No, Leo admitted freely. I gave her the idea. Then you. Leo cut her off. She didn't give me a proposal, but she gave me something far more precious. The disposable water cup in Khloe's hand fell to the floor, splashing water everywhere. Her eyes went vacant. The words echoed in her mind. More precious. Gave to Leo. What are you standing there for? Go get a mop and clean that up. Leo was oblivious to the seismic impact his words had on Khloe. All he saw was the puddle on his floor. Leo's shout snapped Khloe back to reality. Oh, right, she said, her expression flustered as she reflexively headed for the door. Where are you going? The mop is behind the door. Huh? Oh, idiot. Khloe turned back, grabbed the mop from behind the door, and cleaned up the spill. When she was done, she had composed herself. She looked at Leo, her expression grave. What if she gets pregnant? Leo looked up, completely baffled. What did you say? Pregnant? He frowned, muttering to himself. From a kiss. I don't think so. Only then did he realize his words had sent Khloe's imagination into overdrive. He sighed heavily. What are you thinking? Sophia and I are completely innocent. We just kissed. For some reason, Khloe felt a wave of relief wash over her. But she still pouted. You kissed, and you still call it innocent. So you're saying a kiss makes us guilty? And besides, he corrected, it was a bite, not a kiss. Get your facts straight. Khloe went quiet, her face falling. Anyone could see she was unhappy. Is there a difference? A big one. One is active, the other is passive. So who started it? Sophia? No way. Leo paused, then nodded firmly. Yep, it was her. After a moment of silence, Khloe looked up, her eyes welling with tears. I won't bite you. A shiver went down Leo's spine. He wasn't touching that topic with a 10-foot pole. Sophia was optimistic, mature, and independent. Crucially, she knew how to light his cigarettes. Even if he had to take responsibility for a kiss, it wouldn't be a total loss. Khloe was a different story. Even if she didn't care, Ethan Jang would hunt him down and show him the true meaning of suffering. That would be one kiss to ruin his entire life. Not a good deal. You know what? Let's get back to the money. Khloe's eyes turned mournful. I want to talk about money, you talk about feelings. When I want to talk about feelings, you go back to talking about money. 50,000. Leo tested the waters. She might be a down-on-her-luck heiress now, but she was still an heiress. If Ethan Jang's daughter was starting a business, she was bound to succeed with all the resources at her disposal, unless she overextended herself with too many performance-based contracts like some fail.coms. Khloe didn't seem to have that kind of reckless ambition. She'd probably stick to a smaller venture. At the mention of 50,000, Khloe was already tempted, but she didn't let it show on her face. 70,000? Leo offered. Khloe shook her head. 100,000. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Khloe sat with her laptop balanced on her legs, her fingers flying across the keyboard. It's like Monster.com, but local. We build an online resource-sharing platform, marketing it as a community-based service. Besides helping with job searches, it would also have sections for apartment rentals, selling used goods, things like that. Leo was outlining the idea as Khloe typed. When she finished, she nodded. The current hiring process is pretty old-fashioned. A lot of people can't find the right job, and good companies can't find the right talent. With the number of internet users growing every day, this is definitely feasible. But I have one more question. She looked up at him. Go on. Monster.com is already well established. How we steal a piece of their pie? Monster.com, Leo repeated. Do some research on them. They're the biggest recruitment site in the world. They're always looking to acquire smaller, regional players to solidify their dominance in the U.S. market. You can try to partner with them. They'll probably be talking to other established players, so it all depends on how you can get a head start. Leo wouldn't have shared this much with anyone else. In 2004, very few people had access to major international corporations. But Khloe was different. She might have sworn off her father's money, but she'd have no problem leveraging his resources. As she put it, it would be a waste not to, since it didn't cost her anything. Khloe nodded, mentally filing away the company's name. After they finished with business, Khloe closed her laptop and looked at Leo. So you're leaving Riverbend in a couple of days? Leo was signing a stack of documents and didn't look up. Yeah. Your cousin has already laid the groundwork in Seattle, so I'm going up to coordinate with him. The market there is huge, and some things need to be discussed face-to-face. I've given him the exclusive distribution rights for the entire metro area. Leo had spoken with Khloe's cousin many times on the phone, and they had planned the expansion strategy together. From their conversations, Leo was satisfied with his abilities, which was why he was making the trip. Khloe knew about it, and had initially insisted on tagging along, but Leo had firmly refused. Her cousin had explicitly told him he was planning the full VIP treatment for Leo when he arrived, a guy's night out that, in his own words, Khloe better not find out about, or she might tattle to her father. With the warning laid out so clearly, bringing Khloe along would have been incredibly tactless. Khloe pressed on, but you won't be in Seattle for long. After Seattle, I have to go out to the countryside to do a site visit. Kevin's proposal is detailed, but there's an old saying, desperate places breed desperate people. He's too trusting. I need to see it with my own eyes to be sure. Hearing this, Khloe was even more confused. When did you two get so close? Why do you have to worry about his project? Leo shook his head. I don't want to, but everything I do right now is about building Russia's reputation. The agricultural processing plant is being built in Russia's name. If everything goes well, great. If there are problems, we're in trouble. If there's a dispute with the locals, it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. Most people will automatically assume it's the corporation's fault. It's easy for the villagers to get rich, but their character has to be solid first. My rural development plan is about building a legacy, not about making a profit. Leo realized he was saying too much. He took a sip of water and saw Khloe still staring at him. Do you think I'm cynical? He asked. Always talking about reputation and profit? Khloe nodded. A little, but it's better than being one of those sanctimonious hypocrites. Leo smiled. I could lie and tell you my heart is overflowing with love for humanity, that I can't bear to see suffering. But I can't bring myself to say it. I'm afraid if I tell too many lies, I'll start to believe them myself. Khloe pouted at him. Why don't you try lying to me? What do you want to hear? Khloe thought for a moment. Then her face turned red. Tell me you don't like me. Leo looked at her, his expression one of pure shock. You knew? Was I that obvious? Leo, you're a jerk. Thanks. I'll take that as a compliment. Khloe decided Leo was a lost cause and didn't want to argue. She sat back down on the sofa to work on her business plan, intending to camp out in his office to spend more time with him. But Leo's next words made it impossible for her to stay. Even Sophia knew to get her own office. Don't you? The moment Sophia got her funding, she had set up her own tech company. It only had a few people, but she already had a development plan and was executing it step by step. Her mother had even helped her connect with major media companies and many celebrities were set to register verified accounts the day Livewire launched. With that kind of star power, the user base was expected to grow rapidly. Khloe was speechless. She wanted to argue, but had no grounds. It was true. Sophia had moved on, so why was she so determined to stay here? After a long, awkward silence, she looked up, her face flushed. Because I just like being with you. Leo shivered. Wow, it's suddenly cold in here, he muttered. Who turned on the AC so low? At first, Khloe thought he was actually cold and moved toward the thermostat to turn it up. The AC isn't on, she said, then it dawned on her. Leo, you're changing the subject. But when she looked back, Leo was already out the door, pulling it shut behind him. Jerk, you're messing with me. Khloe couldn't believe it. She had finally worked up the courage to tell Leo she liked him, and he had pretended not to hear and then literally ran away. A flicker of self-doubt crossed her mind. Am I really that scary? Scary? To Leo, it was terrifying. How had such a normal girl lost her mind? He walked out of the office building and straight into the adjacent parking garage. Mr. Jang, he said, approaching a black sedan. You wanted to see me? He hadn't run from Khloe just because he was afraid of her bold confession. Her father, Ethan Jang, had sent him a text message asking to meet. They were both adults. While some of Ethan's actions were annoying, Leo understood them and held no grudge. As the younger man, he had come down as soon as he got the message. I think the plan for Rush Sportswear is excellent, Ethan said. We should find some time to discuss it further. Leo showed none of the expected excitement. He just looked at Ethan calmly, waiting for him to continue. Caught. Ethan felt a flash of awkwardness, but his commanding presence didn't let it show. His tone softened. Khloe's a bit stubborn. Please, look out for her. The only thing that could make the powerful Ethan Jang sound so helpless was, perhaps, his identity as a father. Mr. Jang, Leo said, his voice even. Some things can't be treated like a business deal.